Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad you're watching. Thank you so much for making time to join us. This is Sound Candid Talk Open Forum Political Discussion Show, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, today is all aftermath of the Raila Odinga losing out in the AU seat in Addis. There was a display of unity between him and the Ruto administration as they were wrapping up and, of course, looking at what actually went wrong with the Raila campaign and the vote. So we'll be looking keenly on what exactly went wrong and why Raila Odinga lost in this particular elections. And then, of course, this is not the first election for Raila Odinga to lose. And so I believe many Kenyans have different things to say about this. But here, all we seek and our greatest interest is the truth, nothing but the truth. And then, of course, the truth that makes sense for everyone to understand and be part of deciding for Kenya in the best way possible, based on facts and not hearsay or rumors and stories. And of course, there are different people who have given their views on what exactly went on. Some have their own versions of their claims. Some are experts, others are just political players who hoped that things will be otherwise. From all indications, it is becoming clear that this was an election for Kenya to lose, meaning they had an upper hand, but things changed at the 11th hour. And what is this that changed, and why did it change so drastically to result into this particular loss will be our keen interest. And so as we start out, please make sure you invite somebody as we launch deep into analyzing what went wrong in Addis on the issue of Raila Odinga, and then, of course, the Kenya government in pushing for their candidate to win. And I believe you have your opinion, you have your own view. You are welcome to share it. And of course, at the end of the day, we will be giving out the verdict. We have a poll question that we are asking the same question that we will wish you to weigh on the same. So as we start out, like the video, please share the live, invite somebody to be part of the great conversation. I believe this is important, and we all need to have proper understanding of what is going on around us for us to be relevant, and then, of course, able to chart the way forward in providing the much needed leadership. And so as we dive into this, hakikisha kwamba uko mstari wa mbele kukaribisha mtu na kuhusika moja kwa moja kwa mambo haya yote. Na kukaribisha, tuko live kwa Sound Candid Talk YouTube channel, Sound Candid Talk Live YouTube channel, and Sound Candid Talk Facebook page, as well as TikTok. Make sure that any of those platforms that you enjoy, fika mapema tukazungumze masuala haya kwa wazi, and then of course tutakuwa tunafungasha. Na washukuru kila mmoja mnapojiunga nasi katika Sound Candid Talk. Naamini kwamba tutakuwa na wakati mzuri tunapoangazia masuala haya. So moja kwa moja tuanze na hiyo kudadisi ni kipi kilichokwenda mrama katika Addis ama Wabeshi kwa masuala haya ya uchaguzi wa AU Chair. Let's listen to the story as we start the conversation. Thank you those who are joining. Please, karibisha mtu.
Speaking of reading into things, was it the last-minute advisory to the South African development community to back the Madagascar candidate? Was it Francophone solidarity? Was it Kenya's failed or missteps in the area of diplomacy that cost Raila Odinga the AUC chairmanship? Well, Emmanuel To interrogates now in this report.
He had led for 2 rounds of the election until he stopped leading. Kenya is still counting its losses, and the candidate is yet to understand what really happened in the dying embers of the contest that saw his ambitions go up in flames.
And actually we were sure we'll win, but as I say, other factors have come into play, and those factors are going to come out and will be known.
However, the unforeseen circumstances may be interpreted to mean the recent high-octane last-minute regional politics triggered by a series of events, including the DRC-Congo conflict, that Kenya played a role in resolving. The perception that Kenya was supporting Rwanda and the M23 militia by extension, ruffling feathers with DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi, and by extension the South African Development Community SADC, where DRC is also a member.
The candidate from Madagascar, a number of votes that he got 10, and then when we came to round 2, you were also able to see the patterns that we are playing, so you can clearly see that the Francophone countries were able to stick together.
The effect, Tshisekedi is keeping an EAC meeting organized by President William Ruto, opting to turn up for the SADC one that set the ball rolling for Odinga's failure. Kenya's Foreign Affairs PS Korir Sing'oei's response to a letter directing SADC countries to line up behind the Madagascar candidate Richard Randramandrato, adding to the list of possible blunders which analysts say rattled the SADC countries.
To our minds, we think that this letter is sort of an afterthought. We think that it is mere courtesy to show a bit the minimalist solidarity extended to a member of their region.
The SADC power shift would be evident from the third round of the election, with the numbers of the supposed SADC candidate Richard Randramandrato shifting to the Djibouti candidate, who opened the gap between him and Raila to the last round. Odinga was forced to bow out in the 6th round, where Mahmoud Youssouf went ahead and won the race by the required 2/3 of the total votes, translating to 33 votes. Analysts have also opined that the Francophone countries, which make up nearly 28 out of 55 African countries, may have played a role maintaining a united bloc in the election.
They voted for their country. And then you also look at it that the Anglophone countries were not able to vote as a unit. And then also you look at also other regional politics and then regional interests that were at play also might have affected a great deal the outcome of these elections.
Out of the 6 AUC chairperson elections since 2002, 5 have been won by French-speaking countries, with South Africa's Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma being the only lucky Anglophone to occupy the seat. Odinga's loss comes barely 8 years after another one, where Kenya's candidate in the 2017 AUC election, Ambassador Amina Mohamed, lost to Musa Faki in the same fashion. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, mambo ni kama hayo. Kila mtu anaangazia kuuliza kipi kilichokwenda mrama na kipi kilichochezwa hapa. Nashukuru kila mmoja, karibisha mtu tumakinike. Mami, habari ya leo?
Salama sana Penat. Mchezo ilichezwa, but anyway, tumeangalia, tumesikia sema vile wamesema. Ya muhimu na cha maana ni, sijui kama umeona hiyo mkutano, hiyo dina walikuwa naye ya baba na Ruto. Na watu wengi wamewekea mkono Uhuru, na kweli ninaweza uliza hata mimi ya kwamba I think Uhuru, kama Ruto ameenda 2 terms na baba na wakamanage kufata 23. Sasa Uhuru alikuwa rais for 10 years. Hata angeweza tu kuconvince one president or 2 kama candidature ilikuwa ni ya Kenya. But hakuna shida. Wametuonyesha kutoka watu yao mpaka viongozi yao, they are happy. Lakini chenye inanishangaza ni moja Penat. Nimeona wenye kulia kwa machanel ingine wanasema, sasa Raila akuja ashikane na Wamunyoro, alete kura, sisi hatutampi. What? Raila hajasema anasimama, na hata akisimama ni sawa. Wamekataa kumpigia miaka yote, na Wakenya msima wenye wanalia na kusema baba akuja asaidie, wamenyanyaswa ni watu ya Munyoro. Kwa nini wa Munyoro asisaidie watu yao? Sahi hatudanganyani Penat. And I am happy. Raila na Ruto wamesema wanarudi Kenya. Sasa ole wako speaker Wetangula, lakini tuta replace na Waluya ingine wako na akili. Kwanza sahi baba arudi, majority ODM ichukue viti, wapatiwe CSS. Hii miaka 2.5 Penat imepaki kabla tuongee 2027. Hata kama baba atakuwa leader of opposition, let it be. Hata kama Ruto atasema baba, kama Donald Trump alienda 4 years, akatoka nje, akaenda pumzika. Ruto bado wako na chance. So Ruto anaweza kaa chini wapime na baba mzuri. Akiona imeumana, a step down, a support baba 2027. Kwa sababu unatakikana kuserve 2 terms. Na yeye arudi ile ingine. Kwa sababu sasa Kenya hakuna kuokopana, hakuna kudanganyana. Na Ruto, wewe ndio uko na sword. Usifanye vile Uhuru alifanya. Na wata kutoa naye. Na CNC wanalia, CNC watakuja chukua serikali. CNC washika hata kura kwanza. Raila ndiye atakuja tolewa na CNC. Alisema tu siku moja hakuna maandamano. Nimefurahi Chakaranda wapi vijana wa baba. Maandamano hakuna. Tunaenda kureceive baba airport. Tunaenda State House. Tunaenda Kasarani ama yes, Kasarani ndiye itoshe watu ya baba. Ama waukuje Uhuru back. Wafanye celebration ya kukata na shoka. Wenye wanaumwa na tumbo wacha waumwe, kwa sababu wataumwa. Lengo yao walikuwa nafikiria Bernard, baba tu akianguka hivi maandamano Monday. Nimefurahi vile nilisikia Simba Arati ameongea. Amemwambia Ruto na baba, mkicheza no turning back. Na hata ODM no turning back. Kawa hii serikali, pata masias, tengeneza counties, wacha wa Kenya, si kabila moja sasa. ODM iko na watu wengi, wacha serikali sasa ikue yao. Alafu tuone wenye wanaenda kuchinyonga, watangoja Ruto aende nyumbani, watajua. Ruto hakuna mahali anaenda. Sasa hata mimi siku yote nimekuwa nikitaka kukua Mkenya. Sahi mimi naitwa Mkalenjin. Mimi ni supporter ya baba na nina support mtoto yetu. Sijauswa mimi na keep kijana yangu. Unadanganywa, unatoa meno, unacheka na meno ya wenyewe wewe mtoto. Rudi nyumbani ama uache hiyo vitu unafanya. Peke yako unafanya nini katikati ya keep unaitwa, unafikiri unapendwa?
Naomba tuende kwa debate.
Ni mtoto yangu, ni damu yangu. Hakuna Mkalenjin Kenya tunakuwa wachinga. Wewe keep mahali ulipo. Step out of that thing. Enda mahali wa Kenya iko, ama ukae tutakupepa na maji kama hawa. Yes, rudi nyumbani wewe. Nimemaliza hapo. Nasema Bernard, ukweli isemwe. Wewe ni mtumishi wa Mungu. Ustahili kuongea, lakini na sisi, mimi situsiani, napeana direction. Uhuru alikuwa na lead mkutano ya DRC Congo. Watu walikuwa na mkutano, alikuwa amewekewa kuongea, atuambie ni nini ameona kati ya Kongo, nini itafanyikana Kongo ikuwe na amani. Baada ya hiyo anapita huko nyuma kukampeni na Kenneth Raila. Sasa mwanaume Mkalenjin Samoei mwenyewe ile warrior pena, sasa tunasema ukweli, ile Samoei ile ule msee ule ndiye iko kwa kiti sasa. Yes, wataimba na watalia, kuna mahali anapenduka. Hata sisi wenye tulikuwa tumsupport tunarudisha mkuu yetu mbili yote ndani. Bora yako na Raila, lakini kama Ruto yako na Wamunyoro, mimi niko na upande ya baba. Lakini kama Ruto sasa ametuambia na Raila amesema na mdomo yake, yeye mwenyewe baba alitaka kwenda OAU na akamwambia Ruto, na Ruto akasema anamsupport. Na baba amesema na mdomo yake, najua watu wengi watachat Ruto, lakini Raila ametuambia. Na Ruto hata yeye anasema Mungu na baba anajua. Amesema Mungu na baba anajua. Kama mtu amekusaidia penat, ukiwa maternity, unabeba mimba na karibu unasalia barabara, anatoa kari yake anakukimbisha maternity, mtoto wako anasaliwa akiwa alive. Hata kama alikuwa adui yako, utamuita adui tena? Raila alifanya handshake na Uhuru na hakuweka mtu yake hata moja serikali, lakini tunafurahi nchi ilitulia. Sasa mpaka 2032 hapo ndio tutaongea wa Kenya, tutajua kama tuende kama Museveni ama baba Winnie amekuwa mkubwa atoshe tumpatie kiti, ama baba aseme Gladys Wanga ama Orengo ama Simba Arati. Wachana na Matiang'i aliua watoto wetu. Watashikana na Wamunyoro na Kalonzo, wataenda hawa wanaongea. Okay, ni maoni yangu, bora nisiseme kitu itafanya channel yangu.
Nasema hivi ili tusonge mbele, nataka tuangazie hili swala vizuri. Unajua tunaongea kuhusu kile kilichotendeka na possibilities ya ile kitakachotendeka, and then of course watu wana maoni tofauti kuhusu the future of the politics, but politics ni kupanga na kujipanga. So kwangu mimi nataka kila mmoja asimame mahala ambapo panafaa, na wewe ukisapoti fulani umsapoti kwa ukweli na umsapoti kwa haki ya Wakenya. Kulumbana hiyo ndio sitakubali, lakini naomba tafadhali tumakinike katika kutekeleza wajibu wetu kama Wakenya wazalendo ambao wanapenda nchi yao, na tukipenda mapenzi ya Mungu yatendeke katika nchi yetu. And then of course political parties, sisi tunasimamia kila mtu ajenge political party yake, tukutane kwa debe. Wamunyoro alisema nafungua party, afungue party. Jubilee pia ni party. Kuna gani? Ni ANC na Ford Kenya, hizo ndio zilifungwa zikamezwa. Lakini wale wako na DAP yote tukutane kwa debe na kila mtu aweke presidential candidate.
Yeah, Kalonzo pia nimesikia leo mwingi wameambia Kalonzo mpaka kwa debe. Sasa amekuja vile unasema, wacha Kalonzo na Wiper 22 MPs waingie kwa debe. Hiyo ni ukweli pena. I agree with that. ODM, Ruto akiingia ODM na watu yake yote na sisi yote tukue majority tuko ODM, iko shida. Kwa sababu hata yeye sahi hana party. Tunamaliza UDA, tunafunga, tunaenda mpya. Lakini china ODM, Ruto ni kwanza alikuwa ODM, si ati ni mtu mgeni. Hata china yake kwa list batu iko. Ni ile mtoto tu alipotea narudi kwa baba yake, utamwambia usikuje. Mama amesema baba yako ndio huyu, utamwambia hapo si nyumbani. But sitaki kwenda hiyo siasa pena, nataka kusema hivi.
Wacha tungoja arudi. Unajua mwana mpotevu akirudi, baba ndio anaamua kama atapewa fimbo atapewa shamba, atapewa mke ama itakuwaje? Lakini tusiingie sana huko.
Nisiingie,
hapa kwanza.
Nasema kulingana, unajua Bernard, saa ile mama anaanza kutapika na unaona hapa inapika, ukiuliza huko na mimba ama msichana anasema hapana. We kama mama musasi unaangalia macho zimekuwa white, unaangalia hapa inaanza kupiga 100 ati unasema hey. Sasa mimi nasema kulingana vile nimeona ile party ilikuwa pale, hata nikaona na hii mtoto mbona ni kama ako na mimba. Sasa mimi nauliza, na hii mimba ulipatiwa na nani? Kwani iko makosa? Tunataka Kenya, tunasema tunataka Kenya iwe na amani. Na penat Kenya yote, watu yote, hata tumeambiwa wale nusu walikuwa Addis Ababa. Kwa roho yao ukweli hawangetaka baba aende. Kwa sababu gani? Wanashikilia koti ya baba waendelee kuchakuliwa. Hiyo ninakubaliana kabisa. Wakenya yote, Kenya mzima, wamekuwa na maoni penat. Wote wamesema hatukutaka baba aende, lakini tulikuwa tunamuombea. Ile imekuwa ajabu penat ni kushangilia na kucheka na kuimba. Hiyo tu ndiye kati ya 41 tribes ama 45 ama 60 tribes yenye iko Kenya. Watu wengine hawana aibu, na kumaanisha hiyo aibu hawana naye, watakutana na wananchi 2027. Kwanza hiyo maviti ya CS hiyo ilipeanwa juzi ya watu 8. Nimekubali Ruto amesema tunakuja kujipanga. Hakuna kabila moja inatakikana kukuwa na CS karibu 5 penat. 2 ndio itutoshe. Wale ya Uhuru yote kwenda nyumbani, ile ya Munyora yote nyumbani. Sasa baba hata yeye ako na Wakikuyu yake aweke hapo. Wakenya ingine wapate hiyo viti. Hii serikali imesurvive. Inaitwa nini? Si press. Inaitwa nini hiyo? Sijui kusema mimi. Tunataka iwe nusu mkati 2 kabisa, ishiane equal sasa.
Wewe mama fanya hivi. Tufanye hivi. Ngoja kwanza. Ngoja kwanza.
No.
Kupanga serikali ni jukumu la Ruto. Sisi tunaweza kuadvise tu, lakini tufanye hivi.
Hata yeye anasikia mtoto wetu anasema serikali ya sasa ni ya kuweka nusu. Hata ikiwezekana
nusu ni kati ya nani na nani? Hebu tufafanulie.
Kati ya nani na nani? Nani walikuwa Addis Ababa, walikuwa wangapi?
Sawa mami, unataka serikali yetu igawie Addis Ababa? Si tunarudi hapa kwanza tupangane.
Bernard, watu walikuwa Addis Ababa ilikuwa ni ODM. Na nikaona leader of minority ama sijui anaitwa nani, Cheruyot. Nikaona Ruto. Atukusi Mutavati ni prime CS yetu, atukusi hiyo ni yetu, mtoto yetu ya Mulembe. Huyo atukusi, lakini kwa bahati mbaya Wetangula angetulia, hata yeye angekuwa na akili, angepostpone hiyo maneno. Angeambia kina Millie Otiambo tutakuja kukata hiyo mambo on Tuesday. Watu yote walikuwa na ngoja hii mambo ya Saturday penat. Sasa Mudavadi nani anaitwa nani? Hii mtu yetu hii baba ya Roma anaenda kuharakisha mambo. Kwa sababu yeye ameharakisha, huyo ni sacrifice lamb yetu moja. Haya, tunaenda kiti ya huyu mama hot air. Ruto sahi hatuhitaji hot air. Nyorosha huko. Nyorosha kila kitu, wacha watu walie kabisa, wacha tutoane uchi. Bas, ibaki watu wenye watasimama 2027 correct. Hivyo tu pena. Atufakii mali moja, tuko moja sasa. Chanda na pete. Na hatuwezi kuwa na watu tuna wataut.
Sawa mami, let's change gear. Thank you.
Ngoja hata mimi niweke fitina kidogo.
Ngoja kwanza. Unarudi mami. Ngoja kwanza wewe.
Pastor akisema mama amenyamaza.
Sawa, asante mami. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to engage, please let's be on the forefront in ensuring that we get more people to join. And then piga kura yako. Why do you think Raila lost the question we are asking is, do you think Raila Odinga lost the AU chairmanship race due to Kenya's failed diplomacy? Is that what you think? So far, 39 people have already cast their vote. 64% wanasema yes. 8% wanasema no. He faced tough competition. Both factors played a role. That is 20%. I'm not sure 8%. Please, let's keep doing wherever casting our vote and taking a stand on this one. I want us not to go personal on these manenos. Na tunapoangazia masuala haya, unajua siasa iko na mambo yake na iko na mipango yake. Now, they say that there are no permanent enemies in politics. They are only permanent interests. So when the interests of different politicians agree, they will work together. If they don't agree, they will go different ways. But in all this, I don't think there is anything cast in stone. Everything is boiling and warming up towards a particular direction for the country. Let us remain sober and ensure that we are pulling in the right direction. And the right direction is a better Kenya for all Kenyans. A better Kenya for all Kenyans. Tusifike mahala ambapo tunasahau kwamba tunahitaji kutengeneza hii Kenya kwa ajili ya vizazi vinavyokuja. Sababu jukumu letu kubwa hapa is our children and our children's children. Sisi tunapofunga chapter, tuache nyuma Kenya ambayo itakuwa nzuri kwa watoto na watoto wa watoto wetu. Tukimaliza hii Kenya alafu watoto wetu wakifika itakuwa nini? So lazima tukue makini kwa masuala haya. And then of course the political intrigues that went down in Addis have their own significance. They can be interpreted in different ways. But naomba tafadhali tusisome sana. Unajua Wakenya tunasoma sana. Naitwa nani mwenda zake Rais Mkapa. Ndio alisema ameangalia gazeti la Kenya liko na umbea. So tusisome sana, tunasoma mpaka tunatisha wageni kwa masuala haya. So I want us to look at what went down in Addis kwanza, the video that Mama talked about. And then kama unakuja studio tafadhali wahi mapema. Kile mimi sitaki ni uhasama. Hakuna haja ya kuchukiana, hakuna haja ya kulumbana. Ni muhimu tuheshimiane na tutekeleze wajibu wetu. We become too sensitive when particular communities are mentioned. And there is a lot that is going on. Hata kuna watu hapa nje tu. Leo kwa saloon, mara kwa soko, kuna wale wanachekelea. And it doesn't go down well. Because ikifika kwa wengine, unataka kuwachekelea. Ikifika kwako, wewe unadai kwamba unaonewa. So itakuwaje unafurahia maovu ya wengine, lakini ikifika kwako unataka ufanye nini? Ulindwe. So that's the dilemma. Biblia inasema utavuna kile unachopanda. Okay? Wakati wewe unachekelea, sio ni kupanda. So itafika wakati ambapo utahitaji kuvuna. So wakati unavuna, utapenda pia uchekelewe. So let's not just play games as if that we can laugh and mock, especially an old man. No, an old man should not be mocked. An old man should not be, undressed by children. It is not proper. It is not African. It's not biblical. So tukiwaambia endeni polepole na hii maneno, si eti tunawachukia ama tunataka kuwa convert. It's not conversion. Ni kwa uzuri wenu na manufaa yenu. Watoto hawavui nguo mtu mzee. Ninyi mnapochekelea huyu mzee mnajizika kabla ya wakati wenu. Na hiyo sio laana na wapatia, ni ukweli wa mambo. Biblia inasema ogopa kitu chenye mvi, heshimu uso wa mtu mzee. ogopa kichwa chenye mvi, heshimu uso wa mtu mzee. The moment you break that line, you are done. And so you people can laugh the way you want, can mock the way you want, but at the end of the day, you are going to harvest and you will not enjoy that harvest.
Yeah,
I pray that
wanasema
I'll be
baba
here to
amezoea kuwa
remind
namba
you.
2. Wanasema baba kuanguka alikuwa namba 2 namba yake. Kwa hivyo namba 2 ya baba tutawaonyesha is okay namba 2, but hiyo namba 2 watajua wataongezeka wakuwe namba 1.
So Mami, let's hold on as we play this video, and then we will go down into what exactly went down with this particular elections and what lessons can we draw? Because I think Kenya has a lot to learn from this experience. We have lost 2 very serious elections, and that is not smelling well for us as a competitive senior brother in this particular region. Kenya is not just one of the countries. We are the senior most here in terms of leadership. We have played host to majority of these countries surrounding us. We have presided over their conflict. We have played big brother to them. Why is it that we are failing when it comes to seeking these particular seats? That looking inside is something that we should not brush it off, or we should not let our current local politics brush it off until we forget the lesson. Losing the election is not a big deal. What lessons are we carrying home? What changes can we make so that we are able to do what? To win in the next bid. Thank you very much. Let's watch this as we continue the conversation. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Lala. And every other person who is coming, please kuwa mstari wa mbele. Namba watazamaji na drop. Ebu tuendelee kushare na like video. Asante.
Salamno, Jeff and Ayub. Glad to have you both in studio in Nairobi as I hold fort here in Addis Ababa. Today concluded the 30th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government here, and it has been an eventful day, especially Kenyans and others reacting to that AUC Chairmanship election. Now, Raila Odinga has told his supporters and Kenyans at large to stop the blame game. He says he went for the seat of his own initiative, and he says President William Ruto and the Kenyan government gave him all the support he needed in the quest. But he says, unfortunately, when it came down to it, unavoidable and unexpected circumstances cropped up, fast costing him the seat. Take a look at this report by Seth Olale.
Raila Odinga looked calm and relaxed as he was received by his supporters during a special dinner organized by a Kenyan delegation in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Kenya's candidate for the just concluded election of the Africa Union Commission chairmanship, revealing how he was expecting to beat both the Djibouti and Madagascan candidates in the battle for the AUC chairmanship slot, but things took a drastic turn at the last minute.
And actually we were sure we'll win, but as I say, other factors have come into play. And those factors are going to come out and will be known. So we are here where we are, but let us not regret.
The opposition leader castigated a section of Kenyans for blaming the head of state for his defeat in the just concluded polls of the chairmanship of the Africa Union Commission.
That maybe because those people used more money than they used, or Ruto just wanted to humiliate Baba. It was not genuine in saying that he was supporting him and so on and so forth. But I made the decision myself and announced that I wanted to run for this position myself.
The former Prime Minister instead heaping praise on President William Ruto by stating that he is overwhelmed by the tremendous support he received from the head of state.
Tukishindwa, tutashinda. Tumeshinda. Tumeshinda. And therefore I will not regret it. I will walk with my head tall.
The opposition opposition leader telling an emotional delegation that the country must unite as a nation and as a continent to address the challenges facing the people, such as poverty, corruption, and ethnic profiling, among other vices.
Because we've been here before. Just remember, a few months ago, as a country, we were faced with a very serious moment. And we were wondering which way Kenya. But you know what? That moment, when we all thought it was dark, it gave us a new beginning. We ended up with a broad-based government that brought many Kenyans and the country together and gave us the momentum that exists today. I am very confident that this moment is going to give birth to yet another moment for us as a country to work together to build a new momentum for Kenya.
In equating Raila's defeat to the 2024 Gen Z protest, the head of state said he will use the election outcome to refocus the country. While expressing his disappointment, the head of state regretted that the continent missed an opportunity as Raila Odinga was the candidate who deserved to succeed outgoing President Musa Faki for the AUC top seat.
Raila Amolo Odinga did not win because he was the best candidate.
The president commending the former prime minister for staging a campaign like no other. Raila Odinga and President Ruto vowing to sustain their efforts in uniting the country in a bid to address issues contributing to the high cost of living. With President William Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga having completed their engagements here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the two leaders have pledged to cooperate with the leadership of the Africa Union Commission in order to address key issues affecting the continent. Seth Olale, Citizen TV, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. That is the analysis of the winding up of the ceremony in Addis after the elections. I want to encourage us, even as we engage, please let's avoid going personal, and the back and forth of judging people and stereotyping people is not the way we debate and the way we should have a healthy debate. It is very, very, very disturbing when you judge people at a different standard. When it comes to you, you change the standard. Life is too complex to be understood with one eye only or one perspective. All those sweeping statements, show me your friends and I show who you are, they are good cliche for motivational speaking. I don't know. Let me quickly, before I bring in Eli, just give you this story. There was a pastor who was pastoring a church, and the daughter got pregnant without marriage. And one church elder stood up and said, you cannot continue being my pastor. If you cannot lead your home, your daughter has gotten pregnant while she's in your house, you cannot pastor me. The rest of the elders, wakashika huyo elder akamwambia, please go slow. You are a parent, just like the pastor is a parent. Don't be so much harsh in terms of judging the pastor because the daughter got pregnant. And the man said, no, The Bible says if he cannot lead his house, he cannot lead the house of God. Now, all those things that the elder was saying were right and were still biblical. But 4 months down the road, 4 months down the road, he was living with 3 of his daughters and the cousin. And what happened is that there were 4 pregnancies in his own house. All his daughters were pregnant. The wife was pregnant. Now, it's not a laughing matter. What I'm simply saying is that don't be so quick to judge and rule out people simply because they did this and you don't do it. Whatever you wish others, just begin by wishing yourself first. What I seek and the reason why I'm on this chair is to secure a Kenya that is good for all Kenyans, healthy for all Kenyans, and that's all I care. I don't keep my schedule here to come and please you or come and play in your gallery or even want to be liked by you. That's not the whole essence here. We're here to teach one another, educate one another, and help at least make sense of our politics. This other maneno mnataka kuniingiza ndani, mimi hapo sipo. Naomba tu tuelewanwe hivyo. Inaonekana Eli, okay, Eli, where are you?
Good evening, Bernard.
Good evening to you. How are you today?
Yes, I'm very good.
Yes, we can get you, although your volume is a bit low.
The rest of the panel, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead,
okay,
go ahead.
I will just remove this microphone. Give me 2 seconds and then...
If you have your earphone on, they have a way of reducing the volume. If you remove them, the mic will work better.
The vice chairperson of this Africa Union. Can you hear me better?
Excellent. You can now be heard. Go ahead.
Yes, I thought there was like an unwritten rule, an unwritten convention that the vice chair of the AU would be, because we are divided by this post-colonial thing, so it would be Anglophone or Francophone if the person who has taken the chairmanship is from Anglophone country, and the other person as a vice chair will be Francophone. In this situation, you find that Djibouti person is the new chair, and Algerian person is the vice chair. So these are both countries that are Francophone. Also, I realized, I noted, and I'm sorry if that sounds, small detail, but it's important in our politics in Africa, that the vice chair and the chair are both from the Islamic religion. Something quite unprecedented, because in the past they have tried to do that Tanzanian thing where there is a rotational thing. One time it will be a Christian, and then the next president of Tanzania will be a Muslim. You know, that unwritten rule. The third thing, so I was just talking about the vice chairperson. I really don't have much to say about Mr. Odinga and how he lost, because we have already discussed this in the last few days, and my view was very straight to the point. I had already spoken about my fears about how Kenya was presenting itself. But what's interested me also was the way they are electing this high-profile person, as chair of the AU. That they have to do several counts, as if it's like a national or a mass voting thing where there are so many people involved, like a whole country. I mean, I don't understand why they have to go to G6 rounds. I don't understand. Maybe someone will let me know. My fourth point, and probably the last point, is it actually shows this African Union voting shows how divided we are as a continent, because nearly half have chosen a person from the so-called Anglophone, and then nearly half have chosen the person from the so-called Francophone countries. I mean, when will we even imagine to be Pan-Africanist? This is the problem I'm trying to figure out. It's a very, very difficult thing. And could it be one of the reasons why person who will bring themselves as Pan-Africanists will have a difficult, campaign to excite African leaders? Jacob Zuma's ex-wife, Dlamini Zuma, she managed to trounce Jean Ping, who was a career diplomat from Gabon, when he was seeking his second term. But she was celebrated, not just because she was a woman and then won the Africa Union chairperson or chairmanship, but also because of her career in fighting against apartheid. She was a known figure during the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. So she has some similar, tendencies to Raila Odinga, for example. But this didn't work at this point, and I wanted to just also maybe mention Erastus Mencher, the guy from Kisii, who was a vice chair of the AU. He was a very likable figure, even in the East African community, and at one point he even got a unanimous vote from the panel of voters of the presidents, 50 out of 51. It was an outstanding figure, but it doesn't then say that Kenyans, that we are hopeless, useless, that our foreign policies does not match with the needs of African countries. But a person like Erastus Mencher proved them wrong. My last point is what I fear may happen in terms of this division in Africa. I don't know if it's ideological or what, but some governments might now start, forming their own little political cliques because of what has happened during the voting. Because I believe that SADC people, the Southern Africa group, that actually includes some of the East African countries, will have to review how they communicate or deal with Kenya. This is going to happen, So I just wonder where we are in terms of this. But we move on because, as Mr. Odinga said, people must move on at a very fast pace because there are urgent issues that are affecting our continent and our country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eli. We appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to engage, I still urge us, let's avoid going personal and let us not use a language that is unparliamentary. It's unnecessary. We are in Kenya, all of us, and we need this Kenya. And our greatest responsibility, like I said, is to make Kenya better for our children and for our children's children. If you must insult people, then we'll begin to censor you. And that is, you are pushing us in that direction. I don't think it's necessary. Okay. From the last time I checked, Kibra is an estate in Nairobi. And is not just an estate in Nairobi, it's a constituency. And that constituency has inhabitants. People live there. And some people here are the landlords of those people. Wanachukua rent kutoka kwa watu. They are the ones keeping that slum. They don't want it upgraded because it's an income generating scheme for them. It is not a member of parliament decision to go and clear those houses. They are private houses. They are owned by some of us here. Na tunachukua rent. Frank is here, but he will talk to you tomorrow. Mulisikia story ya Frank. Hiyo 2000 ya kila hiyo nyumba. Haiendangi kwa Nairobi River, na haiendangi kwa maskini, inaenda kwa nyinyi landlord. Okay, so kuchekelea watu wa Kibra na kusema fulani aende kusafisha Kibra na nyinyi ndio landlord. Tafadhali. Go slow. Go slow, please. Let's just debate and focus on what is to be done, not this trying to get even. There is no getting even. Na kama unavumilia kuwa hapa, you take marching orders. You go elsewhere where there is better debate than the one we are having. Please. Thank you. Reverend Lala, quickly, alafu tunafuata mkururo tafadhali. Lala, msimamo, Jemo, ndio tuende kwa Njuguna. Yes, Lala.
Habari zenu jamani. Mama Selinas, good to see you. Msimamo, Eli, and Jemo. Nani tena, Njuguna, na wenzangu ambao mko uko nyuma. I think there are times when we have very short memories. And I'm saying this because, number one, when Ruto came to power, one of the problems that he had was basically schizophrenic foreign policy. There were cases where he would sabotage AU and go against behind. If you or remember, we debated that in this channel. With even the last one, of course, is Haiti, when actually collectively AU should have been the one acting, but he went behind them and made deals with the US and others. So he was never in good books with AU. That's the one in foreign policy that he was pursuing. I don't know where it came from. So clearly, when he came into this campaign, already he had no good will from other states within the continent. So he started from a very bad position to be able to be the chief, negotiator, the campaigner, and all that. Already he didn't have a good will. As I stated, and I say it again, that Baba had relationship with some of these leaders. But you see, this is a seat where it's not about an individual. So people who are laughing or talking and saying all kinds of things about Baba just don't understand. They don't read all the complexities that may have played here. So I think let us step back and be sober and look at how things have developed to where they are. Already by the time the election was being done, I don't think Ruto had any goodwill. So his campaign really, I would call it terrible. Then let us look at the foreign policy and the foreign docket. We had Mudavadi there and others, but there was also no consistency in terms of who was leading it, because Mudavadi was, I don't know how many portfolios was he holding. So there was nobody clearly able to articulate Kenya's position, and secondly, to understand what was happening on the other end. But what broke the whole thing, the jar itself, is Congo. Congo was the break dealer. We know other things that have been going on in that region. And so SADC, of course, had to respond, but it's Congo. And who was behind the Congo's debacle? We know Ruto's position was opposed to the SADC. So clearly, the signs were there that this group may not be in favor of that one being pushed by that particular country. So I think I listened to Kalonzo Musyoka articulating that aspect, and that's very, very true. Lastly, I think the complication of, that we have even with the new leader coming in. I love Djibouti. I've been there a few times, okay? But Djibouti is a territory, it's almost like a station for foreign, military, installations. So it's almost like it's not part of Africa. So I don't know who was pulling what behind, how much was being going on behind the scene. I'm waiting to see what is it that Baba talked about and others behind the scene. But clearly, Congo played a big role, and the whole Ruto foreign policy from day one created an enmity from the onset, because you can't go at Swahili. I think the word is kimbelembele. When you're supposed to be acting collectively as Africa, you go ahead and make a deal for Haiti and all these other places. So he didn't have good books. So the chief campaigner himself had so much flaws. And so these are factors that contributed to this loss. So I think let us step back and look at the picture, what has really taken place, and allow for new information to come in if they're there. But those who are laughing or criticizing Baba, I think they're doing it from a lot of ignorance. And so let us be Kenya unite and look at facts and truth, and then let's move forward. Back to you, Bernard. Let me just hold my my mouth there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lala, for that view. We appreciate your givings. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to engage, make sure that you are giving the video a thumbs up, as well as participating in the poll question, and invite somebody to join as different Kenyans give their views about what went down. On the comment section, toxic posts are all either deleted or you get banned. Just as simple as that. This people going personal is not acceptable. So tafadhali, and the cheer team also, you are on that list. Hivyo tu, msimamo. Eli, what I say?
I want to add a point there to Mr. Robert Orina there on the chat section. Just basically when I mentioned Tanzania, Tanzania, as for many years, has had an unofficially is an official thing where they rotate the presidency between Christian and Muslim. It's a fact. It's not part of the law. It's not part of the constitution, but it's a fact. I think he wants to raise that issue about Zanzibar and mainland, whatever, which I appreciate. But it's a fact that Tanzania, that's what happened. You see, part of the problem we have in these conversations in different platforms is that people just come and challenge anything without doing any research, or don't even have to do research. Some things you just know. But I want to reassure Robert Orina that if he does some bit of research, he'll find that what he's saying there is completely wrong. And I'm not trying to embarrass him. Thank you.
Okay, we'll look into that. Tanzania is a country, ile nani Jakindu Beu anasema hapa kuna tofauti kati ya nchi na taifa. Kenya hatujatengeneza taifa. Tuko na nchi. Tanzania Nyerere alitengeneza taifa. Ndiposa kabila ambalo ni dogo sana linaweza toa rais. Hapa kuna wale ambao lazima wawe hao, ama kama si hao lazima wawe hao. na ile man eat man society, the way Nyerere described us. We seem to be living up to that particular phrase. And some of us don't even see anything wrong with it. Okay? Tunaona kwamba wakati tunanyang'anya wengine tukijipatia, ama wakati tunadhalilisha wengine ndio tunapata furaha. We rejoice in running down each other. It's just crazy. Okay? Then at the same time, we don't want to be run down. We want to run down others, but when we are being run down, we hate it. We want to fight tooth and nail that somebody's running down. The moment you run somebody down, you have sown the seed. You should prepare for the harvest and not, I think, is a laughing matter. So let's get serious if we really want to be part of the future that is secure and good for everyone. Msimamo, karibu.
Nimekaribia kaka, hali vipi?
Salama, tunashukuru. Kwale?
Nasalimia mama hapo. Kwale tuko chonjo, tunamshukuru Mungu. Lala Eli huyu kaka hapa nini? Jemo na Njuguna na wale wote wako kwa comment section. Maoni yangu kuhusiana na hili hii topic ya leo ambayo ni kipi kimesababisha labda pengine kushindwa kwa Raila. Mchango wangu ni huu, mimi kama msimamo. Mchango wangu naweza nikasema ni kikwazo kikubwa haswa ni serikali tulionayo na uongozi wake. Kwa maana kusema hivyo ni hivi, unajua sasa hivi kuaminika kwa hili taifa inakuwa ngumu kwa yale ambayo yanajiri katika hili taifa. So imani hii inanitia mashaka kwamba ndio kikwazo kikubwa cha huyu mzee kushindwa pale, wala si yeye kushindwa. Nimemsikiza vile akisema yeye mwenyewe alijitolea mhanga tu, huyu Kasongo alimsaidia tu kuweza kufanya kampeni yake, lakini sijaridhika na hayo kimtazamo wangu, kwa sababu ya tabia ya nchi tulionayo kwa sasa hivi. Pili, nitaongezea kusema pia wananchi wengi hawakuwa na imani kabisa kimtazamo wangu na huu ushirikiano kati ya baba na Ruto, jambo ambalo hata hakuna mtu alikuwa anapendezwa, wachache walikuwa wanapendezwa sana na mzee aidha kufaulu katika kile, lakini wengi hawakutaka haswa huyu mzee apate haswa hii nafasi. Lengo na madhumuni si kumwadhibu yeye, bali kumwadhibu yule ambaye ni msaidizi wake, aliyosema ni msaidizi wake, aliyokiri kwa kauli yake kwamba alimsaidia kuweza kufanya kampeni na kila kitu. So Wakenya wengi walifanya hadi waliweka mtazamo kwamba huyu mtu amekuwa kuna sponsor, na who is the sponsor? Basi kama sponsor si mwingine but ni Kasongo, na akiwa anang'ang'ana baba aende kule kurepresent mataifa ya Afrika ama kusimamia mataifa ya Afrika, vipi nyumbani hapa kama hakuna uaminifu? Hakuaminiki si hela, hakuaminiki usalama, hakuaminiki mambo mengi tu ambayo yamechangia. Tukiongeza ule mgogoro wa Kongo na majeshi yale ya South Africa kuja kuuliwa pale, pia ni jambo ambalo mimi kimtazamo wangu naona lilichangia pakubwa, haswa haya mataifa ya kusini kuweza kujitenga na kuona kwamba haya yote yamefanyika ni East Africa, kwa sababu ukweli wa mambo hawakuwa wanaangalia, hawa marais hawakuwa wanaangalia mtu individual. Juu angaliangalia mtu individual, basi baba huenda pengine angeweza kufaulu, kwa sababu nafasi anayo, uwezo anao, na alikuwa nao na anao haswa naamini. Lakini waliangalia nchi, taifa, huyu katokea taifa lipi, na kama katokea taifa lipi ni nani, taifa hili linaendaje, haswa misimamo yake iko vipi. So masuala ya kuunga Israeli mkono pia amechangia. Swala hili la mauaji nini na kadhalika, yote haya wameweza kuangalia wakaona pana, ili kuadhibu basi wacha tujitenge, kwa sababu kalaiti kama haya mataifa kusini yangeungana, haswa haya mataifa magharibi hayangekuwa na nafasi ya kuweza kupitisha chochote, despite kwamba ni Muislamu mwenzi wao, lakini haya ya kusini ndio yameweza kutukoroga zaidi, na yangefanya hivyo kujibu mashambulizi ama kujibu yale ambayo yamenajiri Kongo kule, kwamba Kenya despite kwamba haswa hata mwenye nchi hapa ambaye ni kiongozi wa nchi hapa ni mwenyekiti wa jopo haswa nasimamia masuala mazima la katika East Africa, kwamba swala hili la Kongo ni kama amelinyamazia, ana amelinyamazia kwamba anaongea tu, lakini kwamba hataji pale mahali ambapo panauma, na South Africa wanalia haswa wanajeshi wao wameuawa kinyama. So huenda hii ndio changamoto mmojawapo ambayo iliweza kumwacha huyu mzee siangaliwe yeye, tuangaliwe taifa. Pili, kiongozi wa nchi anaongoza haswa katika wakora ama wakorofi ama waporaji ama corruption. Number 2, the whole world. So hizi sifa mbovu zinazolekea taifa letu linaacha amani na kuminika kwa hili taifa kuwa ngumu kiasi kwamba samahani kidogo my God, kiasi kwamba hawa marais wa mataifa waliangalia vitu vingi tu, lakini kwa kweli taifa letu halina sifa nzuri, halina mtazamo mzuri kule nje. Hili limetokea kuwafunzwa kwetu kwamba taifa letu halielekee kuliko, yaani lina mapungufu mengi, haswa hususa katika kipindi hiki cha uongozi wa bwana Kasongo. So to me siwezi nikalaumu baba kwa nini ameshinda. Yenye mwenye wemfilisha ni hii chief campaigner, hawa walikuwa wanamzungukia campaign, mambo yalikuwa yanafanyika na wanayowatema haswa wa mdomo yao ama yanayofanyika katika taifa hayaipi nafasi, yani haipi nafasi haswa nafasi kama hii ambayo baba alikuwa anaendelea kuweza kuipata. So hayo mimi ndio naweza nikazungumzia kuhusiana haswa kwa nini baba aliweza kushindwa kuweza kunyakua ushindi ule. Kimtazamo wangu mimi nitachapa, lakini vile vile pia ningerequest kama ungetuchezea ile Miguna tukajaribu kuangalia na yale ambayo alikuwa anazungumza Miguna, kwa sababu ni kama pia yameingia katika akili yangu, despite ndio hawa na cheche za kuvutana pale na pale, wana vita vyao vya ndani, huyu kafukuzwa nchi, lakini nikitazama yeye amezungumza zinakiana ukweli fulani, kwa sababu ukiangalia haswa kiundani yale maneno alikuwa anazungumza Miguna, kwa kweli naweza nikasema ni njia mojawapo ambayo imeweza kutunyima nafasi hii haswa kama taifa kuongoza haswa bara la Afrika kwa kuweza kuwa na kiongozi wetu pale. So mwenye amemfadhisha ni serikali kwa sifa yake mbovu ambayo bado ipo, na kama hatutakuwa na la kufanya kuweza kuondokana na hii shida, basi sifa hii itazidi kuendelea zaidi, kwa sababu taifa letu sasa hivi limepoteza umaarufu ama uungwaji mkono kwa mtazamo wangu kutokana na tabia na desturi ya viongozi tulionao. Kwa hiyo mimi nitaachia hapo kaka yangu Bernard Aswa kwa hili swala zima la kwa nini huyu kakosa haswa kuweza kushinda ule uchaguzi wa jana kule Addis Ababa, lakini pia tujifunze kwa uongozi ukiwa na tija, ukiwa na maana, ukiwa na lengo zuri na ukielekea kuliko, basi inakuwa pia ni rahisi haswa masuala kama haya kuweza kufanyika kwa njia ambayo ni swafi zaidi. Lakini ukiwa ndani ya uongozi kuna mapungufu chungu nzima, basi sometimes pia kuaminika kwa taifa inakuwa ngumu. Asante.
Okay, thank you, Msimamo, we appreciate that. vile suala la kujifunza, hapo ndio naona lazima tujiangalie kama taifa, na ni sababu hata tukisema ni William Ruto, tulipoteza 8 years ago in the same vote, and William Ruto was not chief campaign, and then Uhuru Kenyatta ndio alikuwa amri jeshi. So kuna vile sisi tunafanya diplomasia yetu ambayo kama wengi wamesema, kuna mipaka tunavuka katika ile hali ya kuonyesha ubabe mpaka tunaharibu uhusiano mzuri ambao tunapaswa kuwa nao na mataifa ambayo tunategemea kupata kura zao kama tutapata huo uongozi. And that means that it's important to coexist with your neighbors in a more harmonious way other than acrimony. Vested interests, they need to be arrested. This appetite of being a dealer everywhere and wanting to be in this and that is a huge problem. And then, of course, you don't want to deal straight. You want to deal by taking advantage. That in itself is bad news. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to engage, please karibisha mtu, piga kura yako, alafu like video. Nashukuru wote ambao mnajiunga nasi. Now, yes.
Kakabeli, kwa hiyo unasema Ruto
Yes.
tumvulie lawama, tumuondolee lawama kwa sababu ngoja tunamaliza tu kwa sababu Uhuru wakati ule alikuwa rais na Amina akakosa. But tuelewe kwamba kila tukio lina misingi yake. Wakati ile kulikuwa na misingi yake, na sasa hivi kuna misingi yake ambayo inafungamana na ukweli. Na jamani, tusifiche.
Sorry, msimama tunakupoteza.
Nasema
Yes.
Nasema wakati ule tusichukua lawama kwamba hebu tumuondoe lawama kwa sababu wakati ule Amina aliweza kukosa wakati ule na wakati huo alikuwa Uhuru. Kwa hivyo tulaumu wale wanaozunguka ili kwa sababu wanakude wana confidence yani na kuona kwamba wana uwezo zaidi kiasi kwamba mwisho wa siku wanajikuta kwamba wanashinda. Lakini huyu tumuondolea sio makosa kwa sababu mtazamo wangu nasema wakati wa Amina ulikuwa tofauti kiasi na wakati huu, kwa sababu yale ambayo pengine machache tu yalituacha wakati ule tukakosa hiyo nafasi, maybe wakati huu aswa uongozi uliopo ungeweza kutilia pondo zaidi katika misingi hiyo, kwamba tulikosa kwa ajili ya hii na this time around tunataka huyu mzee kwa nia swafi awe hapa, kwa nia swafi basi mambo mengine tungepunguza pia. Masuala haya ya mauaji ya kiholela, mwana mwezi niambia utakuja kumlinda kwa nchi yangu ama utaniongoza wakati nchi yenu yenyewe tayari iko. So for real, mimi nikisema namuondolea lawama huyu, siwezi kumuondolea lawama kwa sababu kimtazamo wangu unaona kwamba ni changizo kubwa kutokana na tabia ya uongozi wetu tulionao. So nitaachia hapo, lakini tukitetea sana tukumbuke mwisho wa siku huu tunaficha huu ugonjwa na mwisho wa siku tutasemwa na kilio. Ni kama hiki ambacho kimetokea Addis Ababa sasa hivi. Asante.
Asante msimamo. Na mimi sijasema tuondolee lawama Kasongo ama Ruto. Nimesema tu kama tulienda 8 years ago tukapoteza, na sasa hii tumepoteza, and then katika mazungumzo yetu hatutaki kujifunza what went wrong then that looks like what went wrong now, so that we holistically address. Kwangu mimi naona there is too much there is a problem with our diplomacy generally. We can't lose twice even if there are different circumstances with different leadership, if we are doing the right thing. And so if we want to correct, then we should not even make this a Ruto thing or a Uhuru thing. Let's look at it as a Kenya thing. Kama wa Kenya na Kenya nchi nzima, kuna vile ambavyo uhusiano wetu na majirani sio mzuri kama ulivyokuwa, because our neighbors used to look up to us. Now they are looking down on us. Could that be a contributing factor? So I wouldn't want it to be like namuondolea lawama Ruto. Ruto ana mchango wake. Kuna zile rules break, zile boundaries cross, kama vile Lala amesema yeye anajipendekeza kwa Amerika, ameacha AU, ana transact in the name of AU, yet he's not an official and things like that. He purports to speak on behalf of Africa and things like that. Those protocols, wherever breaking them and messing them up has a way of affecting us. Those are lessons we must take. But our diplomacy agenda has to be fully addressed. Ikiwezekana kuwe na overhaul, because like it looks right now, ni kama hatuna hiyo diplomacy ambayo inavutia kwa mataifa. We seem to be an underdog in this matter, and that doesn't spell well for us as a country. And so without necessarily apportioning blame, we have a great deal to do with correcting what is wrong with our diplomatic approach, especially in these matters external.
Sawa mkuu. Sawa mkuu, mimi nawaaga tu natoka, lakini nasema hiyo diplomacy inaanzia na kiongozi hapo juu. Huyo kwanza ndio wa kwanza, so kwa sababu huyo ndio sura ya taifa. Sasa kama yeye hayupo, hii harufu ya sasa ya kuweza kupoteza huu uhusiano unaanzia kwa yeye na uongozi wake. So tukisema nini, changio kubwa ndo tunazunguka, lakini mwisho wa siku tunarudi pale pale kwamba changio kubwa ni sifa ya taifa, kama nilivyotangulia kusema awali kwamba sifa taifa letu si kama ile ya mwanzo. Sifa taifa yetu tunazidi kuwa mbaya zaidi. Taifa ambalo tunahuruhusu mauaji ovyo ovyo, taifa ambalo linaongoza kwa uporaji na corruption, taifa ambalo tunaaminika sasa hivi Wakenya ni wezi tu. So hii sifa hii yote tunakiangalia haswa mwisho wa siku kiini chake na kilele chake kinaishia wapi? Kitaishia kwa Kasongo. So huyu hawezi toka katika kumnyima huyu rafiki yake ambaye alikuwa anamsaidia kampeni. Kusaidia si tatizo, kusaidia kwenda pesa hii ndio inaenda, wacha tufanye hii yote si tatizo. Tatizo haswa ni hili linalo kubwa hili la taifa ambalo sura ya taifa na mtazamo wa taifa na mahusiano. Kwa sasa hivi kila mtu ni mjanja sasa hivi, akiona Kenya anajua nikiacha kidogo nikilemaa hapa mimi ninarambwa. So hali kama hii mimi nitaachia hapo, maana hata naona mengine hayatoki. Acha tu niachie hapo kaka.
Okay, thank you. Jemo, please.
Well, nichangie kidogo.
Na wasalimu wote
Jemo, you on mute? Unmute?
Na wasalimu nyote nyinyi mwenye mko kwa stage. Najua msimamo ametoka. Jakindu Bay, Lala, Eli na Mama Selina Bernard. Kuchangia mada ya siku ya leo. Najua it can be heated up, but we have to talk about it regardless. So naomba wengi wenye tuko kwa comment na wenye tuko kwa stage tujifunze kuwa na emotional intelligence, mambo ya kuchangamkia kila kitu as if ni personal. It's not good, because with that we cannot even talk. We have to just develop that emotional intelligence. Raila is a Kenyan, Ruto is a Kenyan. Both of them are holding high prestigious status in Kenya. So we have to talk about what's going on. So nikirudi kwa hii mambo ya Raila. I don't know if I'm gonna pick any of you guys' points, but I think I see that there are some points and some misses in this issue. So I'm just gonna state mine. According to me, Raila alianguka kwa sababu ya association yake na Kasongo. That's point number one. Kasongo tukimrudia kwa nini yeye ndio aliangusha Raila. Kasongo akiingia presidency, he was this guy that came on a national world stage, especially in Africa. The same way he came up to Kenyans with these ambitions of being someone that's going to bring change, someone that's going to bring uplift Africa, kwa sababu hii Raila alikuwa kwa stage ya Africa, hata uplift Africa to a wild stage. The things he was talking and promising on African stages, saying things like, no, not again will Africans be summoned to these other places and a million of us to go. Not again, this and that, you know, Africa needs to be respected, you know. We have AU as our representatives. If anybody needs to speak to us, we have our AU chairman and all those representatives to go represent us. And yet, same like he lied to Kenyans, he lied to them on their faces. He couldn't wait to fly and go meet with the West world leadership and, you know, just embarrassing us in day in, day out. So he cannot handle Africa on a world stage. Ametuaibisha, ameenda amekalia kiti ya Biden kama mtoto, amekiuka you know, the African wishes when it comes to supporting the issue between Gaza and Israel. He's out here against the advice of the African leaders too, sending people out to police to Haiti. So Raila just associating himself with Kasongo. It puts Raila on a very bad situation. And they also see, you know, these African leaders, they are more interested, just like we are interested in the Congo issue. They're also interested in our Kenyan affairs, internal affairs, even when we don't have a problem. So they know what's going on in our country, and as much as we know what's going on in South Africa, Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania. So tusikae ni kama tunakuwaga surprised only when we need an AU leader. So what's going on in Kenya does not put Ruto as a good president. And for him to front Baba, it doesn't look good. So diplomatically, Raila failed because of his association with Kasongo. We saw Kasongo at the inauguration of Ghanaian president and how they perceived him and how they embraced him. It was very cold. So we can't keep nasikia vile Bernard ulikuwa nasema at 8 years ago we fronted Amina Mohammed, and then this time those are two different situations, and you cannot say Uhuru fronted Amina failed. This time you can tell it was diplomatic, because if you pull up Amina Mohammed profile, he has held offices of Cabinet Secretary for Sports and Heritage and Culture, and then previous offices that he held was also Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2018. Then you pull the same time when you are pulling people like Musa Faki. In 2003, he was Minister of Foreign Affairs. When Amina was barely trying to get that experience, this guy came in with experience. So that was a merit-based issue that Africa looked. He was also a former prime minister of Chad in 2003 and 5, and 28 and 2017. So when you're talking about these two merits at the time that they were going out against each other, you can tell that Africa made the right decision at that time. So if Uhuru sent Amina, then maybe we didn't send a qualified person there. This time we send a former prime minister. This is should be the Musa Faki of the time when Amina was going. We now presented our Musa Faki. He got beat by somebody who, and I agree with what they are saying, that he was the most qualified. Raila was the most qualified, but he was beaten by somebody that is good, but not good enough. So what does that tell us as a people? Is that Africa decided this time they're going to skip merit and they're going to go with their heart and people that they feel like they will trust with the leadership of the AU chairmanship. So mambo ya kusema ati Uhuru last time na nini, yeah, Uhuru alisenda mtu bila merit, maybe not enough, but this time we sent merit. But diplomacy kind of took us out of the equation. I feel like Raila is in the stage here. Losing something is not easy. So now he's busy explaining himself. I will hope that he will also get a chance for self-reflection of what really happened. What does he really need to do? Speaking after a loss, immediately after a loss, sometimes it's just inakwanga ni too late to aftershocks. The earthquake came through. He has to live through the aftershocks. Now ni explain, he's still sleepy from the events of not sleeping because ya masherehe za Kenya walimpelekea Addis Ababa. He will have to explain himself, but I hope after explaining and excusing himself, because these are just a bunch of excuses, he will sit down and say what really happened and what really happened to me. Because him associating to himself to Kasongo is something that if the African presidents are not taking it lightly, for them not to give him a position, then he also needs to understand that it might not be good to him back in Kenya if he continues associating himself with Kasongo. Kasongo always has personal agendas, and I also believe Baba too. But I think Kasongo is more disappointed when, this time when Raila lost than Baba himself. That means Kasongo. He even said, I saw Kasongo, he released a statement and said, I'll be lying if I say I'm not disappointed that Baba lost. Kasongo had more at stake than Baba in this relationship, in this contest. So the sooner Baba will realize that he cannot continue with this association, it will be better for him and be better for Kenyans. Other than that, I am sorry for whoever that's gonna be continue to sympathize with Kasongo, because whatever that happened to Baba is, I think, what will happen to them. And I'm talking about politicians who will front Kasongo for presidency in 2027. Same way Baba went home, we are doing this to all of them, from Mount Kenya and towards the rest of the country. That's it for me, Bernard.
Okay, thank you, Jemo. We appreciate that good analysis and comparative. It appears that we are so committed in ensuring that we explain this situation from the point of different personalities. But my point was about the same elections. Same elections. We participated in those elections as a country, not necessarily on who was the candidate. And we lost as Kenya, as a country. So that should point out something. Is it the people we fronted, the people that fronted, or our country stand in the view of our neighbors because this is something that if we tie it to a person, as much as we have those people playing, we may end up with a narrow judgment because it's only around that person. But in a wider spectrum where we're looking at the country and its relations and the different players, I would that we can now begin to see where are the loopholes. How do we deal with those loopholes? Despite the fact that we have bad representatives or good representatives, after these representatives are gone, we still have Kenya, and Kenya will still need to relate with Africa. And so are we going to repeat history, or are we going to correct whatever that those that went ahead of us missed? And that's the reason why we're comparing. And it's not maybe even saying that Uhuru scored or Kasongo did not score. It's all, how is Kenya doing? Because even from where I sit, Kenya is not where it was at the time of Moi. We didn't have all this development, but we had a good standing in terms of how the rest of the world looked at us. But right now, it appears that tumeanguka kabisa, and hata tukijaribu kusimamisha ile sema Kenya nchi nzuri hakuna matata, hiyo matata bado iko tu, hiyo bana haiwezi kusimama. And that's why I'm saying, as Kenyans and the way we are engaging, the wider way we look at the country, to me, is better than narrowing it to a person and tying it to an individual. Because individuals go, the country remain. And to fix the country, in fact, we should be in ensuring that we don't get wrong people in wrong places, or rather in right places, because they're going to mess up the country. And when the country is messed up by those wrong people, the country will still be blamed when those people are long gone. So, hiyo tu ndio mambo yangu kwa hilo swala. Si kutafutia nani fulani soft place to land, and then just going up East Africa to enda Uganda, enda Tanzania. Mimi nimesurura, mimi uhubiri. Nimekuwa Zambia, Zimbabwe and all that. There is how we were treated kitambo. Kisema unatoka Kenya, kuna ile heshima ulikuwa unapewa. Sahi hakuna kabisa. And that points out on our diplomatic code and how we are carrying ourselves. So I would that we think deeply about it, not just to look at it as something that is far-fetched or far from us. It is affecting us directly, and we may just eventually end up where we can't, raise our head anymore anywhere. Well, I want us to make progress. Just before we bring in Jakindube, Lala, your microphone is on. Please mute it. Can I play this video before Jakindube comes in? I'll love to Songemel. Here we go.
Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has accused President William Ruto of mishandling Kenya's bid for the Africa Union Commission chairperson position, leading to Raila Odinga's defeat to Djibouti's Mahmoud Youssouf. Now, speaking during a church service at Full Gospel Mwingi in Kitui County, Kalonzo alleged that President Ruto's interference in regional issues, including the DR Congo crisis, contributed to Raila's loss. As Jeff Kirui reports, Kalonzo is now calling for the resignation of Musalia Mudavadi as the Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary for allegedly tainting the image of the country following that loss.
Loss to Djibouti for the Africa Union Commission chairperson position has stirred a political debate in the country. The opposition, led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, is now pointing fingers at President Ruto for what they termed as squandering Kenya's opportunity on the continental stage.
Jambo hili tusifurahie, liko na aibu, limeleta aibu kwa sura ya nchi ya Kenya. And I place the blame squarely on Raila, on Mheshimiwa William Samoei Arap Ruto, who was a chief campaigner.
Mwenye amepoteza kiti ya chairmanship ya AU, it is not Raila Odinga, it is Ruto. because yeye ndiye alikuwa puppet, yeye ndiye alikuwa chief campaigner na financier.
Kalonzo and his allies further argued that Kenya's local politics played a big role on the loss, following an agitation pushed online against the rising cases of abduction that painted Kenya as democratically intolerant.
Alikuwa na nia yake nyingine pengine kwamba akimsukuma Raila basi atakuwa na easier time. He didn't know it was going to be very difficult.
African heads of state are not fools. Wakajiuliza maswali. Wewe unataka Kenya ikuwe chairman ya AU, na wewe unafanya abduction ya watoto ya shule.
Kenya's AUC bid faced a setback when the Southern Africa Development Community unexpectedly advised its 16 member states to support Madagascar, weakening Kenya's chances.
Walienda pale DRC wakaenda kuombanisha watu bure. Yani, how do you go to fight with voters 2 weeks into an election? Unaenda pale unasumbuana na Kagame, unaenda pale unasumbuana na Suluhu, unasumbuana pale na Tshisekedi. How do you expect those people wakusikize ili unataka wafanyie?
Kalonzo is now demanding accountability from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, calling for the resignation of Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who he accuses of damaging Kenya's international reputation following the loss.
The same ambassador alienda Addis Ababa, yeye, bibi yake, 2 bodyguards na president wake ambaye alikuwa voter. 5 people in total. Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga alibeba 187 senior government officials to Addis Ababa. Please be humble. And more so, utilization of public resources.
Jeff Kirui, KTN.
On the same, Deputy President.
Okay. Jakindu Bey ametupwa nje. Pole dadi. Basi tumsikilize Maunga.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. Wacha nichukue tu na hiyo clip imetokea saizi, especially that last part. The truth is, Africa is not looking to remain a basket case. Mara nyingi tumechukuliwa as a dark continent and everything else, and everyone is moving away from it, and especially the younger version of Africa is hoping that we can tell a different story because we've been sufficiently exposed. We know differently. Right now, we live in a global village that is the internet, and so we know what the world is looking like for those of us who haven't traveled. As for us who've traveled, we know why we appreciate our countries as much as we do. We now insist again why we need to make a country that makes sense for our children and our children's children, and just a posterity that makes sense, and especially that the color of our skin should not be used to determine anything else because it is synonymous with some things. When you're told that you carried 187 officials on a budget of a country, this is the same country that a president student said, or rather the person bearing the title president student said that he gave 500 million Kenya shillings towards a bid for Grammys. And yet that is not, there's no evidence that this money was sent out. But this guy went ahead and said, I paid this much. This is the same country that took 1.4 billion Kenya shillings and decided to claim that they're purchasing a software for Shifsha. Those are pronouncements that have been made. Of course, I won't be able to lay down all the scandals that have been there. But the truth is, we have a very incompetent, wasteful thief bearing the title of a president, even as we call ourselves Kenya. Kalonzo said, and I don't know why that hasn't been captured in that clip, that the same flag the Gen Z were bearing when their brains were being splashed on the pavement of Kenya, of a city in Kenya, was the same flag that had stood in Addis Ababa, representative of the fact that this is the person from this country who is in association with the person who is the highest level of authority in that country, who is supposed to come and guide Africa in terms of policy and in terms of way forward and in terms of steering Africa to where it's supposed to be for the next, say, another maybe century. I honestly do not imagine how it is possible for anyone to have sat and thought that Africa is supposed to be so skewed that they would now decide that we are standing with a candidate or someone who, there's a rumor that this guy calling himself president went and sat with the Al-Shabaab and had talks with them, the Al-Shabaab leaders. Do you know, I do not doubt it for 1 minute. I cannot put it past him. And I know that is not a speculation. I can almost within 70% guarantee. I do not, sadly, I usually do not want to give information of things that I cannot confirm. But this is a guy who literally I know can decide, oh, you guys want to come and bomb a few places just so that we can make a message. Why not? Please, by all means, come in. What is the cut for me? Just killing this couple of Kenyans, what will it cost me? It won't cost me anything. If anything, you'll have reduced the population, so I have a lot less people to deal with in terms of where the taxes are supposed to be coming. And the same fool will not remember that his money, the money that these Kenyans who are likely to be killed are making would be going to the tax basket. He's always about himself. By the time he's calling Macron, the same Macron who's supposed to be thrown out of DRC because they're part of a problem, he's doing it at the behest of himself and not cognizant of the fact that it is a Kenyan, it is an African problem. This guy has no Pan-Africanism within him. He has nothing leadership about him. He has self-centeredness within him. And then this is the person fronting a candidate and using up billions of the country's resources that are not even there as his people struggle with all the basic necessities. Because he wants a seat. What does he want to do that seat? First, it came to bear. It was not the candidature of Raila Odinga. It is unfortunate. Actually, the only reason why we have all this hullabaloo about this whole election is because of the person of Raila Odinga. Just because it was Raila who was vying for that seat. Had it been anyone else, I don't even think would have cared. It would have come and gone like all the others have. When Aminas did, well, we spoke about it. Why? Maybe because of the amount of money that was used. But let's look at ourselves as a country and ask, who in their right minds within the continent would want to associate with Kenya as a leader of Africa in any capacity based on everything that Kenya is? When was the last time Kenya did anything that anyone would want to look towards and claim that this is a country that I would want to claim is part of my continent? When it comes to leadership and all the ills that have happened in this country, let alone just during even Ruto's time, even during Uhuruto's time, even during Kibaki's time, when Kibaki now brought back tribalism to the elements that he did. I hear several people talk about, oh, Raila's broke oppositions, what. But then there's no opposition in the constitution. We right now have minority and majority. And during the time when Uhuru moved to join Kibaki because Kibaki was a Kikuyu, there was actually an official opposition seat. And that was funded by the taxpayers, and there was actually facilitation towards the same office. But Uhuru crossed over anyway to join Kibaki because Kibaki was Kikuyu. And then Kibaki went on to support them on the premise that that Uhuru was a Kikuyu, in spite of the fact that there are criminals who've been indicted at the ICC. So the truth is, there's nothing admirable about Kenya. When we talk about the fact that Kenya was leading, yeah, it may have been leading in the likes of Tom Mboya. We have a very rich history. We have a history we have people who are resilient. We have some of us who've gone out there and represented this country in a way that is respectable. But what do we presently have? So that is what we should talk about. Earlier on in the show, I had some talks that I cannot even believe were flying over here. The way people will now front themselves as tribalists, and now, yes, front yourself as a tribalist, and then let us see what you have produced. If you have produced trash, that is all the trash that you're going to associate with your community. By the way, as a Kenyan, I'm not going to associate with the rubbish that Ruto is. His Kalenjinganess, by the way, if at all he came from the Kalenjin community have raised a fool. So it's unfortunate. Let them own it.
Hey, stop. Don't install us.
I will not stop.
Stop.
I will not stop. You said stupidity, and I'm calling it out.
You are stupid.
Okay,
of course I am.
Order, both of you, please.
So as I was saying,
Bernard, I want us to mind our
language. I was saying,
by
the way, I'm going back. No, I'm minding my language. Of course, there was no minding language earlier on when that was being said. And that is why I've mentioned it. The truth is we are moving forward. And we are moving forward from the generation that has brought Kenya to where it is right now. We are on our knees right now. There's a lot of trash that's going on in the country because of a generation that folded its hands and said that it is okay, that is Kenya for you. And they let this country sink. Right now, Kenya is being made a difference of. Our children were put in sacks and were thrown in. And I rightly say our children because my children are within that age bracket. They were put in sacks and thrown like trash because of people who are comfortable with speaking a language that they thought can produce anything. Well, we confirm to you that we have raised children worth their salt and that Kenya is going to change whether people like it or not. We will not remain with the trash that was brought in and raised by people who did not have better sense. Kenya right now stands as a shame. It stands as a shame, remains as a shame. I'm glad Addis Ababa yesterday proved otherwise. We are not going to remain rubbish. I will not stand on an international podium and refer to myself as a Kenyan and everybody else thinks that they're going to associate me with the fraud and the theft and the killing and everything else that is synonymous of Kenya right now. I'm glad Africa has refused it. And I am glad yesterday Addis Ababa took the direction it did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But please, let's refrain from calling communities a blanket judgment is unacceptable. And let's deal with the problem as if I commit a crime, deal with me as Bernard, not
But
my
Bernard,
community.
earlier on, there was actually that mention, and I actually I had to step out just because I couldn't stand listening to it. But the truth is, someone sat there and comfortably said that they're going to take a community stand, and now they're going to decide that Kenya will come to the effect that it will come to because they come from a certain community.
Let's
We
do
are
this.
going to take a stand. Kill
You
yourself.
will take the stand. You will take the stand.
No.
We will not.
No.
We will
Tuko na
not.
sisi.
Thank God you're in the wrong generation.
Let's do this. Ladies, please. I was giving direction. Ngoja, mama, tafadhali, respect yourself. Naomba tafadhali, let's refrain ourselves. I was giving direction. Deal with me as an individual, not my community. And that applies to everyone. It's not one person, okay? When we go personal in the sense of branding and stereotyping communities, we are not any different from the people who have brought us in the mess where we are. We are playing right back into that same trap. We generalize everything until the snake and the fish, all of them enter the net. And when we go and cook, our fish become poisonous. So let's be more keen in ensuring that we pay attention to details. And when somebody has done something wrong, two wrongs don't make right. Let's correct it in the best way possible. Acrimony is not usually the only way to sort out matters. I know confrontation is part and parcel of this, and I respect that. But please, if we can avoid it, the better. Let's give direction so that the people watching the show can have direction. Stereotyping communities, I've stood against it all along. Please, let's not do that, especially when it comes to justifying what is wrong. Please, I want us to make progress. Njuguna, you've been on hold for long. Please come in.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Just to say something on that a bit of exchange. I think when we come here on this platform, we come as Kenyans. Let us, and I can understand where Maunga is coming from, because earlier there was some comment of a community thing stuff. So let's refer to ourselves as a Kenyan, because we are trying to sort out the Kenyan issue as Kenyans. Okay, that was said and done. The debacle at Ethiopia yesterday should not come as a surprise to anybody. Anyway, that was expected. And it was expected because we have lost our patriotism. It's very hard to point a patriotic person today in Kenya. One of the leaders, you can't say this is patriotic. Well, they are driven by vested interest and their stomachs. And to say something, Ruto asking Raila to become an AU chairman was not out of genuine concern. He had a motive. And the motive was he had his eyes at 2027. And he thought himself, Ruto, that taking Ruto out of the political equation in Kenya would make him easier for him to be re-elected. That is one thing. That is very, 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 that nobody can deny that. That was the main need. So it was not genuine. And that's why there is this debacle in Ethiopia. The other thing is, for you to know it was not genuine, we never involved our diplomatic personnel. We have got some people who are very good and equipped in diplomatic matters. None of them was in the campaign trail. So the people who are there were just politicians. I believe it probably would have been a bit better if we had put Kalonzo there as the person, if it was genuine about Kenya as a country and not as an individual. It would have been Kalonzo, and Kalonzo would have been done better. Now, to compare today and Amina Mohammed's time, these are two different issues, and we cannot bring them together. And just like one of the panelists said, the failure of Amina Mohammed was very, very genuine. But this was actually, the current one was actually a debacle because of vested interest, because Ruto did not want such big opposition in 2027. And let me also say that currently, Kenya is at its lowest ebb. We are down there as a country, down, completely down, because of the current administration. Because of the current administration. Because Ruto had decided to go his own way. He had defied other African states. He had disregarded what was going on in Congo. And he himself frustrated Uhuru to facilitate him to travel to DRC as a peace negotiator. So how do you expect us to come and head the African Union? That was a total failure. We have gone internationally as people who don't care about life. We have been killing our own children. We showed last year, 2023. Our youngsters have been killed all around, right and left. Is there any person who has been held accountable today as we speak? Children have been abducted. Who has been held accountable? Let me say, we have got the previous Attorney General, Mr. Muturi. His son was abducted. He's on public record. He went to see Ruto to ask him for his son to be released. Ruto called the director of NIS, and the son was released. So who is behind the abduction? So Ruto is aware. And then you expect us to hold an international position as Kenyan? We must be joking. We are jokers. And we need to rise to occasion and become patriotic. So, country as it is today, Kenya as today, this is the lowest down we can go. And we go, if I can dare say, if Ruto comes back in 2027, that country is gone and gone completely and never to come back. So it is for us, Kenyan, and we must change the government in 2027. We must, under any circumstance, because there is no way a government can. Ruto saw by the Bible is going to read by the Constitution, but children has been killed. The hospitals are gone. The healthcare system is gone. There is nothing working, just promises, address promises, like he's taking money out of his pocket. These are government. These are Kenyan resources which to be planned before, so that he can work for Kenyans. But this is a man who cannot even do anything, and the best we can do is to do away with the Ruto as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Njuguna. We appreciate that perspective. And well, I will say that on that, the purpose of a contest, any contest whatsoever, is to determine who wins, because there is scramble for limited resources, or limited resources for that matter. And so when there is a competition and it has 4, 3, 2 people, one will emerge a winner. And of course, there are many factors that will contribute to one being a winner or a loser. Why does it become so, surprising that one lost and the other one won, when we went for that competition with those two possibilities? Yes, Mr. Njuguna. Unmute, your mic is off.
I think with all fairness, even the person who is campaigning for you, the chief campaigner, matters a lot. Yeah? His track record also matters a lot. We had a genuine candidate, but we had a false chief campaigner. That's what I can say. Thank you.
It's okay. And, I may sound as an apologist, but there was no way Raila Odinga will be a Kenyan candidate and participate in these elections without Ruto, on the premise that the law requires that he has to be fronted by the president, or rather the government of that particular nation. That is part of the AU rules. And so on the issue of campaign, that's a different ballgame. But how Raila would have campaigned and went for this seat minus Ruto, and without Ruto being associated with Raila, it's difficult based on the fact of the provision of the law.
And Bernard, isn't that why we are saying that the fact that he was fronted by that man, and that because Kenya has that man as their president, that was one of the reasons why the loss was expected and was realized?
Exactly. But now the demand of separating the two, especially on this particular agenda, it was mission impossible. And of course,
so it was a good thing. It was a good thing.
We are bearing the fruit of the same.
Yeah, so it was a good thing Africa rejected Kenya. So it was a good thing Africa rejected Kenya on that particular premise.
So let's Njuguna, your last bit, please. Unmute first. Unmute. Your mic is off.
I think let me say this. Yeah, Raila was more needed in Kenya than in the African continent. And why I say this is because he is the person who has held the government accountable. He's going there. That's why I said by saying he's going to the OAU was disingenuous. So him being here in the country and taking care of the Kenyan affairs was more important than going there, because going there does not mean that he's going to help Kenyans as he does when he's in the country. And let me draw your attention, because I know you are a Christian. If I bring your attention to this gentleman of the Bible called Jonah, When Jonah was asked to go and do something positive to Nineveh, and he refused. He went and hid himself in the ship somewhere. When he was asked by the people, why are you asking? Why are you hiding here? He said he's not going to say. And he said, if you want to throw me out into the water, you can throw me. He was thrown out and he was swallowed by a fish, which went and vomited him back to the place where he was supposed to have done something positive. This is Raila coming back like Jonah, back to Kenya to do something positive. I rest my case.
Mr. Juguda, I don't refute your point, okay? But this Raila has not been hired by Kenyans to be doing that. And on the other hand, I don't know whether we'll have an appeal.
He has not been hired by Kenyans, but he has made himself to be.
Okay? In case God decides to come and collect Raila, Raila has to die. Do we have a means by which you're going to appeal and say there is no way Kenya can do without Raila? Raila has to come back to life. Or
Raila, the God will provide.
I think God has already brought the Gen Z movement, so we will be good.
So going to Addis Ababa is a problem. He has to come back and be vomited back. We'll look into that. Very interesting. Before we go to Nini, Msimamo anasema anataka kuchangia. Msimamo, quickly please.
Asante, nitakuwa haraka zaidi. Kwanza sijui nianzie wapi. Najua leo hapa kuna maneno, lakini kwa sababu acha nimuombe Mungu anijalie maneno ambayo tutakuwa si ya kukwaza. Tukisema Ruto anajificha kwa Raila, na hapo ndo kwenye tegemeo lake, na hatatoka haswa katika uongozi, kwa sababu yuko chini ya Raila, wafanye kazi na wao wapiane. Tumi upande huo naona kama wazalendo kule tunaelekea kusiko, na badala ya kuchukua mzigo kwenye kichwa kuweka chini, tunaweka tena kwenye bega, tukidhania kwamba ndo tunapumzika. Mwisho wa siku tukumbuke mwili ni huo mmoja. So haya malumbano ya leo nimeyafikiria nikawa sitaki kuyazungumzia, kilo inanisuta, kwa sababu kila ilivyo tunaelewa taifa letu ni muhimu kuliko kitu kingine, ndiposa tuko hapa wote. Yaani tukirudi katika ushabiki tena, tumie haileti shangwe. Jambo likiwa halijaenda sawa, kama wana Kenya tunafaa tuseme halijaenda sawa, na siku zote wengi wape. Ruto alikuwa na haja kubwa baba aende hiyo, hapa tusivichane. Alikuwa na haja kubwa sana baba kwenda kule, kwa sababu ya hii azma yake ya kisiasa, na siku zote tunamuelewa Ruto kwamba habahatishi, wakilenga mahali wa kuna tija, kuna kitu chake kinamwekea faida upande wake. So baba kwenda kule kwake kulikuwa kuna muhimu kubwa kwa sababu ya umaarufu wake. Pili, amefaulu haswa kuweza kuzima haswa umaarufu wote wa baba na kuchipuliza vitu vingine ambavyo vinamweka baba sasa hivi kuwa na uungwaji mkono nusu. Ukweli tu lazima tuzungumze, kwa sababu wengi waliomwamini hawamwamini. So tumi kusema watu wawili waungane wabebe Kenya, kwa sababu mwingine yuko na swadi. Swadi si ya mtu binafsi, swadi ni ya Mkenya. So kama sisi wananchi tutaingia swadi na huyo mwenye swadi, itakuwaje sasa katika mageuzi katika hili taifa, ikiwa mambo hayendi sawa kama tunavyoyashuhudia? Ama wakiungana ndio tutaona mambo yanakuwa sawa. Sasa kwa kuungana haswa ODM na tuseme ODM sasa hivi, kwa sababu wote walikuwa ndani ya hiyo chama sawa. ODM ndio tutakuwa tumefaulu. Jamii mbili zikiungana, kwa sababu moja yuko na swali, moja yuko na ushawishi, basi taifa litakwenda. So to me, nasema kama msimamo kwamba tuangalie taifa, na ni wakati wetu Mungu anatuajalia hizi pumzi na muda kama huu kuweza kulizungumzia hili taifa, kwa sababu wote tunafikiria kwamba je, sasa hivi mambo yako hivi na vizazi vichavyo, je, siasa yetu ambayo tunawarithisha haswa wale ambao tunategemea kwamba ndio tunawaita Gen Z, iwe siasa hii ya hila, chuki, uongo, ubinafsi, siasa hii tuirithisha haswa vizazi vinavyokuja. So tukisimama hapa tuwe wazalendo wa kweli. Huu ushabiki tuachaneni nao, kwa sababu si wakati wa ushabiki, ni wakati wa kuweza kuangalia kwamba taifa letu limesimama tena upya, lina sura ya kuaminika kimataifa, lina sura ya kuaminika kitaifa. Hayo ndio mambo tunafaa kuangalia, na kama halina sura ya kitaifa, na ndiposa haswa mataifa mwangalia mataifa ya Afrika kwamba ni kweli Kenya sawa, kiongozi wao yuko sawa, hii anaweza deliver, lakini kimtazamo mzima wa hili taifa. So to me nasema picha ya taifa letu, hata waungane huyu na huyu, kama mataifa hayapendezwi na siasa iliyopo Kenya kwa sababu haliaminiki, still bado hatujaondoka kwenye shida. Ni sasa sana kuchukua tu mzigo kwa kichwa, kuregesha kwa bega. So swali isiwe kisababu na kisingizio kwamba swali ndio tunategemea sisi, ndio tumepata swali. Kabla sisi ni sisi mpaka wakati fulani, na wengine wakipata wasadi wafanye vivyo hivyo. So siasa ya kubaki ya ukabila tusiendeze katika platform, inaleta picha mbaya. Nitaachia tu pale, asante.
Okay, thank you msimamo. And we're going back to Mama Celine now. Naomba unajua mtu anaweza kutoa mapendekezo, hiyo mapendekezo ya kui sheria, just the way somebody has seen is different from tumepeleka mswada kwa bunge, tumepitisha kwamba fulani na fulani washikane na waongoze milele. That is now a serious matter that we need to attend to. But if somebody has seen this and expressed himself, it doesn't mean it has to be that way. I can tell you that the politics that is being arranged right now, it may not even last through 2025. All this you see, Wamnyoro, sijui Kalonzo, nini. Remember, mnakumbuka G7 before 2013. Zile nini ikakuwa sijui nini case sijui what, wamekuja pamoja. Ile baba alikuwa anasema paka 7 zimekuja pamoja, nini panya 7 zimekuja pamoja kutafuta nani atayafunga kengele paka. Now politics is just like that. Watu watakuja pamoja, watachana wengine, then at the last minute ndio itajulikana nani ako wapi kufanya nini. Cha muhimu hapa sisi kama Wakenya tusimamie kitu ambacho kita outlive us, something that would outlive us, something that will be good for the country, even if our name is not remembered. I would not mind that if we did something that would be good for the country and even our name is not mentioned, but we succeeded in making Kenya better, I'll be a happy person. So let's not tie everything to individuals and making this individual have to be this and that. At the end of the day, we all going to end somewhere and Kenya is going to go beyond us. Let's do something that will live beyond us. Thank you. Kabla tusikilize mama tena, this one is a quick one.
Are you looking for video live streaming services? You want your church services to be on air? You do not know where to market your goods and services? At Sound Candid Talk, we deliver the best live stream services for your events, product and service launches, conferences, weddings, and lives. Reach on us today.
Mama Selina, you can take the show.
Okay, Bernard. Yeah, leo ni leo, but tuheshimu, watu waheshimiane. Na maoni yangu, siwezi furahisha watu niwe nikisema yenye itafanya kila mtu afurahi. Vile wengine wanaongea. Ukiona umechukishwa na yale nimesema, sema yako mazuri. Na kukua Mkenya, si lazima nikubaliane na vile watu wanaenda. Atu kutoka kwa miti, tumetoka kwa binadamu. Tumetoka kwa communities kabla hatujakuwa wa Kenya. Mimi hivyo ndiye nitasema. Mimi nimekuwa kwa hii channel, najua kukua na msimamo, najua kusupport Kenya, najua kusupport rais, najua kusupport nani, but kuita watu wachinga ama kuita communities mulisa sijui nini, haiwezekani hiyo penalty. Na hata huyo wenye wanadharau, sahi kila mtu wa Munyoro alikuwa anadharauliwa the other day. Today is a hero in his community. Nani anaongea about that? Baba amekuwa baba ya watu wengi. We support him kwa ile msimama amefanyia Kenya. We don't support Raila because amekuja yesterday. Amefanya mengi yenye imetufaidi wengine, imefaidi nchi yetu. Na hakuna binadamu, watu wanafanya makosa na kuna wenye wafanyi makosa. Kuna wale wanasikia uchungu sahi, kuna wale wanafurahi. But end of the day, msimamo ya baba as individual na msimamo ya Ruto as individual, iwezi kuwa yale Mama Selina anasema. I can say I want them to be together. I'm not in Addis Ababa, siko roho ya baba, siko roho ya Ruto. Vile tunataka kulazimisha baba akikuja awachane na Kasongo, aenda ashikane na Kalonzo ama ashikane na Wamunyoro. You are not there. Watu wanapeana views. Na si kuona wengine ni wachinga. We have been there long time. Karibu tunaenda na kina baba retire. We have seen more. Nyinyi munaanza, muendelee na muchue vile munapeleka nchi. I know, heshima iliisha. Samani tulikuwa na heshima, watu wasee ama mtu mkubwa yako akiongea, hata ungawa ameongea mbaya, unajua vile unamchibu. But because tuko generation yenye atakwambia I'm not your mother, I'm not your father, I'm not your sister, I'm not your child, that is okay. But maoni ya kila mtu aheshimiwe. Hakuna mwerefu hapa, na kama tungekuwa werefu, mimi sikupigia Ruto kura. Sisi wengi hatukumpigia, wale walimpigia, wanajua walilete mtu yao. Na si ati watu wakinyamaza mnafikiria wote watakubali what you are saying. Hivyo tu ndiye nataka kusema penalty. Tuheshimu hii channel na tuheshimu maoni ya watu. Na ukiona mtu ameongea mbaya, sasa tukichipiana inakusaidia nini? Kama baba kesho atakuja na wafanye na Ruto, utafanya nini? Ama mimi kesho baba akuja aseme afanye na Ruto, mimi nitajiua. Kenya itaendelea. So ukiwa na hasira hapa, tulikuwa na hasira miaka yote, si kura ilienda vile ilienda. Tulikuwa tunaambia watu mzuri. Uhuru aliambia watu, lakini si walisema tunataka mwisi wetu. Sasa ndiye amekuwa mwisi kuliko vile alikuwa mara ya kwanza. Ruto amekuwa mbaya sasa kuliko vile waliambiwa na walisema huyo ni wetu. We style up. Tuheshimiane.
Sawa
Mimi
mami.
hiyo tu ndiye nitasema, Penat, heshima tu. Na kama mtu anasikia uchungu kwa sababu nimeongea, sasa kutoka leo niko kwa hii channel, niko na right kukuwa na hii channel mpaka we mwenyewe utanifukusa, na mimi nasimama na
Mami,
nataka kutangaza msimamo yangu Penat.
you have made your point, mami.
No,
you have made your point.
Yes.
Ukiongeza
Na baba, mimi nasema hivi, nasimama na baba na Ruto. So kama nitatolewa kwa sababu nasimama na baba na Ruto, iko sawa. Thank you.
It's okay, mami. Take it easy. Take it easy. Unajua we ni mama yetu hapa na lazima utuongoze. Okay? So tusiingize vita. Kama tumekosea unatukosoa. Na cha muhimu hapa ni Kenya bora. Sababu ya hii kipindi ni Kenya bora. Let's have a better Kenya. And whichever way that Kenya is going to be realized, I think we should have a stake in the same. So let's stop the scoring of points in terms of who is with which team for what. And then, of course, saa ingine nao hii nayo itakuwa kali kidogo, lakini nataka tukubaliana. Okay? Saa ingine hapa tunakuwa na ile kitu tunaitwa unafiki. Okay? Tunapenda kuji-identify na winning team. Kabisa kabisa, tutashabikia, tutapiga makofi, tutaweka motisha. But when it comes to standing up now, actualize that promise or actualize that ushabiki, we all coil in and disappear. That's where I find it strange, okay? I find it strange. We want a new Kenya. We don't want to pay the price to get it. We want a changed Kenya. We don't want to touch any other person in terms of changing their lives. And that, to me, it sounds strange. And so, tusianze kuwana hapa kwa sababu eti fulani alisema hiki, akasema kile. Wengi hapa tunasema mambo mengi sana, lakini kuyatekeleza imekuwa ngumu. Na mimi sioni uongozi ambao ni uongozi halisi kama it does not translate into action. Action in the sense that we make good our promise. We make good our promise. We want a better Kenya. What are we doing to make that Kenya better? We want the Gen Z to decide the next elections. What are we doing to ensure that this Gen Z will be ready for those next elections? Wangapi tunasaidia kupata ID? Wangapi tunasaidia kupata birth certificate? Wangapi tunasaidia wakuwe registered? If you are doing something practical like that, you are helping the change. But if we are only here to score points, nilimnyamazisha, nikaongea kanyamaza, and all that, that's all we will get, and it's not going to take us anywhere. So let us translate our passion into action. Let's translate our quest for change into a practical action that is going to help the country change. We can't change Kenya by talking. We can only change Kenya by putting down systems that are going to work in propelling us into realizing those realities we are talking about. Northeastern has remained semi-arid. From our geography classes of 1922, Rudy, okay, it's still semi-arid today. It will remain like that until there will be a leader who will say, no, this place cannot continue being semi-arid when it has water underground. So let's think differently, act differently, and we'll be able to be part of the change. But if we will be satisfied by just scoring points, then we are part of the problem. Sorry to to point out that, but I really want us to be part of the change by ensuring that we make practical our promises, make good our promises. Tuache story ya kulaumiana, tutekeleze wajibu wetu in our own small way, in our own small way. Make sure you're doing something. Tafuta Gen Z, saidia yeye kupata ID, saidia yeye kuregister as a voter, utakuwa unasaidia hii change. Lakini kama ni kukutana tu hapa and then we score points, hiyo haisaidii, and I would encourage us to embark on that. Well, I think we go back to Jemo, ni Jemo ama Eli?
To be fair, I think it's Eli and then me.
Eli, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you can make your submission and yeah, go ahead.
Yes, like I said earlier on, our continent suffers a lot of division. It is such a shame, and not just because of this voting pattern, but something that would revive a strong Africa, the way Africa was, for example, during the anti-colonial revolutions back then. You know, that kind of mindset has gone, because right now we are only, you know, choosing leaders according to language, maybe religion, and regional interests. But for me, I would want to see a powerful Africa where they don't even suspend those 6 countries that, for example, the ones that, you know, overthrew the government, you know, using military coups, and then, for example, in Sudan and its problems. So I would imagine that suspending those 6 nations from the voting at African Union is also a shameful affair. I think that's not, you know, if you imagine 6, was it 6 or 7? I think it was 6 nations that were banned from voting, okay, because of unconstitutional means of government, and for at least 3 or 4 of them, Mali, Guinea, and all that. But then if you look at majority of African countries and how they have held on to power, those presidents, you look at Museveni, you look at the guy from Equatorial Guinea, and so many other African countries, they're the antidote to democracy, and yet they can say to the guys from, you know, for example, in a Faso, that you cannot participate. And this is not just the voting for the chair, vice chair, and commissioners of Africa Union, but they were in the summit. They had crucial things to discuss, which those countries that have been suspended, you know, may have missed. And why would that? Why should that happen? You know, if the people of those countries, like for example, I keep mentioning Burkina Faso, are not complaining. We're obsessed with this constitutionalism. Yes, fine, but the previous leaders of some of those countries were actually, you know, working against their own constitutions. You see, so what I'm saying to our discussion here is, this is a wake-up call for African leaders, maybe even the future generation. Maybe the way Kenya has been impacted upon by the youth is a similar thing that can happen at the AU. I don't know in which format that will happen, but you know, this is a major concern. My last point in my submission is that they are very influential actors in international diplomacy, especially China and Western Europe. Very influential in this thing. And I don't want to annoy people, but I would say that a lot of these influential countries would have had a massive problem with Mr. Raila Odinga. They've always done that. And that's why part of their project is to do a smear campaign against him whenever he's standing in Kenyan elections. That's an open fact. We know it. It's not something that, you know, all these countries were, especially Western Europe, they were against Raila Karua candidacy because one of the things they were saying, and it's known, this is what they're discussing, that these people were suggesting to bring a social security system where people who are not working or are in a certain way of poverty, they would be given 6,000 shillings per month. The Western countries are against this because they want us to keep relying on the charity industry, you know, and aid and all that nonsense. So I believe that they have some influence at the AU, including China. I don't think China has time for Raila Odinga. Honestly, that's honestly speaking, the way I see it. And China is probably the most influential country out of Africa at the AU. They built that building and they bugged it with so many different things. You know, like they could listen to everything that's being said there until it was discovered only recently. Sorry, only a few years ago. So because of the style of Mr. Odinga as a fighter, as a campaigner, is something that they found very difficult. So we are influenced by outside actors, and that's, I think, a very dangerous thing. Africa should revert back to what it was during the anti-colonial wars. I know this could sound far-fetched, but it's possible, you know, in order to regain our strength and see what we want. But I don't really care what happens now between Ruto and Raila, because it's
Can I step in? Because can I step in?
I think what will
Order, Lala, hold on first.
I'm just finishing. My little comment here is that I think what happened to Raila after the last elections, not this 2022, but the previous one, where he was given some job at the AU, is probably the same thing that's going to happen. So, you know, this 80-year-old man is going back to the AU, whether we like it or not. You know, they'll give him some job, you know, because this is how, you know, statesmen are, you know, accorded some so-called respect. And I wouldn't really shed tears for him in that way. I would love Raila to sit back at home and do some very, very good autobiographies, like nothing that has ever been done before. I would love to be able to do this, you know, because he's a great man. Thank
you. Bernard, can I step in?
Yes, Lala, go ahead.
First of all, I disagree with my brother almost 100%, because there is a hidden dislike for Baba, which of course we can hear coming from him. Number one, when we talk of social security, Western Europe, whether it is whether it is Britain, whether it is Scandinavian countries, they all have social security fund. People are given money. So when I hear someone claiming that Martha Karua and Baba are the ones bringing some kind of socialistic something foreign to the Western countries, is unheard of. First of all, that's not being honest. What has been proposed is what is practiced every Western country. Everyone is entitled to a social security funding or some kind of funds to to jumpstart any of those individuals who are having hardship. So to claim that's the reason why Baba is not supported by the so-called, whatever Western countries, as Ailey is telling us, is not correct. Secondly, to prescribe Baba a job in AU that this old man will get this. First of all, it is, I would call it one of the countersending, attitude towards Baba and towards the whole fight that Baba has been doing. So to me, I was very angry at, when I hear something like that, some intellectually dishonest contribution from such a person like Eli. So thank you. I just wanted to make that statement. Okay, back to you, Bernard.
Lala, it appears you missed the point for Eli. I don't know, Eli, what is your response to that?
Can you explain to me? I did not miss it. That's what I heard. If I miss it, I'm very sorry.
I
But
will
that's
let
exactly what I heard.
himself,
Thank
Eli
you.
himself, listen to him.
Okay. I think what I said was, and I used just one example of smear campaigns, and the smear campaigns, underhand smear campaigns, were used against Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and other influential Kenyan leaders in the 1960s. So it's not something new. Okay. So what I'm saying is just one aspect of the Odinga Karua campaign and many other campaigns that Mr. Odinga has done in the past. The Western countries, especially, they can't stand him because they look at their personal interests. And their interests, for example, in our local situation in Kenya, when Mr. Odinga was the Minister for Public Works and Housing, you remember he decided to demolish houses that were on way leaves, where roads and electricity pylons and things like that were supposed to be, they were supposed to be there. And he was the first such minister to literally go for those big houses, untouchable people. Even brought down one of the houses that belonged to his own brother in Nyanza, Oburu Odinga. So what I'm saying is, those people who see him as an aggressive person, internally in Kenyan politics, they think it can impact on their interests locally. Now, when it comes to the social security system, the comparison you gave about the United States and other European countries, Muammar Gaddafi did it so well, and it worked in Libya. Okay. Now, they did not like Gaddafi at all. I'm just giving that as an example. I'm not saying Gaddafi was perfect, but that country, the social security system in Libya was something amazing, right? And it brought many people who were in poverty out of poverty. So whether Mr. Odinga was lying to us that he was going to get some money, he knows where he's going to get it because he was prime minister, that was another issue. But for him and Karua to say that that's what they were going to do, obviously, these countries that parrot themselves as the saviors of Africa,
you're losing me. You're losing me because you're not answering the question.
No,
you're losing
I'm
me.
answering it the way I want.
Order, Lala, you're out of order, please. Can we? And we are wrapping up. Let's not overstretch.
Okay, so
Eli land to the point.
Very
quickly.
quick. Yeah, very quick. I will never, for example, I'll never call anyone an intellectual fraudster. The way you aimed at me at intellectual fraud.
No, I didn't say you're fraud.
These are my personal views. Okay.
If you had a fraud, are they intellectually honest?
No.
That's what I'm saying. I respect you very much.
Hebu tafadhali tutulie, si watu wazima hapa.
So,
Eli, make your point. Jemo is waiting. We
without
want
being
to wrap
interrupted.
Up. It's 2 a.m.
Yeah, without being interrupted. Thank you. So, and this point I'm making is a very, very powerful opinion that is shared by many people. That the people who influence what happens in AU will be happy with the Djibouti candidate because of things that Lala said earlier on. Actually, what Lala said was correct, that the place is just a playground where there is armed forces from most of the influential countries in the world. It's unprecedented compared to many countries in Africa. Djibouti is the only place. with that kind of military gangsterism that we see, obviously because of its position in the world, the geographical location of Djibouti. So, Lala, what I said was just my personal opinion, and I just gave one example, and that's an example to say, this is the way Raila is. He said something about social security, and these people, the way they didn't like him in the Kenyan elections, I'm not surprised that they would not like him in the AU voting. And I gave an example of why they hated Gaddafi in comparison. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And I think that point is clear. In view of what is happening in West Africa and the way the former France colonies are behaving, it is not sending, it's not sitting pretty with those people that have always had the upper hand and taking advantage of Africa. So the realization of Africa and its resources and their declaration of independence, especially economic independence, is not sitting pretty with the especially the West. And so Raila's leadership at AU would have accelerated that process from what he was painting as the vision for Africa. Africa get industrialized, get electricity, get the road network intertwined, Africa to trade among herself. All those things, when they get realized, then Africa will not need the West, and the West want to be needed. If they are not needed, they make sure that they create something that will make them be needed. So them being instrumental in making sure that this man does not get there will not be surprising for me. And it's all by reason of them trying to save themselves, not necessarily helping Africa. And that is where I'm shocked with the head of states of Africa, that they are still conducting themselves within those Anglophone and Francophone arrangement of the colonial masters, and yet they are, they are claiming to be Africans. I was hoping that people are going to rise up and vote objectively, other than we are from this group, we have been told to vote this way. The voting went like, let's vote to punish so and so, or let's vote to show somebody that he cannot tell us anything. So in the process, there was no choice of a leader. It was all, I think, getting back to somebody or trying to prove a point. And that, to me, didn't sit well in terms of, if you are a head of state, you need to be independent in your decision, and you should act in the interest of Africa, not necessarily in the playing ball according to maybe your puppeteer. But at the end of the day, whatever happened, happened. And so Africa will have to pick itself up again. And we hope that the younger leaders, Kina Traore and team, will move faster and get this continent out of this madness, because we've danced here for too long. It is overdue that Africa can be self-reliant, self-actualized, and able to take care of her children, like the way we have been all along from our history. We didn't bank on anybody to come and raise our children, or come and raise our family, or come and protect us. All this introduction of other nations protecting us, it was all brought by white man. We cohabited, lived together, community after community, traded among ourselves, and we were all peaceful and progressive. But they introduced all this so-called civilization, and civilization has trapped us into some arrangement that is not healthy for us. It makes us to be dependent, and that our over-dependence is something that it will take long to break it, but it has to be broken if Africa is going to realize her true capacity and her true excellence in terms of being what she's supposed to be in order for her to be respected. Well, nataka kusema hivi, it's 25 minutes after 2 a.m. At 3 o'clock, we are closing. So we want to begin to give our closing remarks. Before we do our closing remarks, today, 17th, we need to pay for StreamYard. That is $50. Then VPN is $10. Hiyo hela naomba ianze kuja. Alafu Frank yuko leo anapumzika, kesho tutaongea naye. He's here doing classes, computer classes. So he'll be here for 3 days to do the classes and then goes to take care of the grandma and then back. Our support for Frank must be kept, please. I beg you. If there is anything from the Gen Z protest that I don't want to flop, is Frank's collecting his life together and being able to be self-reliant. So support ya Frank, tafadhali tuendeleze hiyo campaign, na kama kuna njia yoyote ya kuhakikisha kwamba Frank anapata upkeep yake, masomo yake yanaendelea, and then of course some startup money for him to start out in life, it is important. Let's do whatever we can to help him. Thank you. Without any further talking, Jemo, you make your submission, your closing remarks. Tukienda namna hiyo tunapoanza kufungasha. Asante.
Well, again, hey, I mean, Bernard, if we're gonna have this discussion going forward, hey, watu watawacha kuwa emotional and too sensitive. I agree. We will have more and more of these conversations going forward. So mtu tu aeke roho yake kando na tuanze kufikiria based on what really affects our country. Sometimes, and I keep advising us as people, we all come from somewhere. And no matter what we do in this conversation, somebody from your community will do something stupid. Okay? And atatajwa. So as long as we don't call the community us by name, I think we'll be okay. That way we can address these people without necessarily thinking we're addressing the community. And that goes to Ruto, because me, I address him as Kasongo. And also it goes to Wamunyoro, because there have been instances where the Murimaism was being fronted here. Na sasa inakuwa ni, what are we fighting? So let's just stay on that lane where we can address people and leaders, and then tutaendelea. And so the issue yenye earlier ameongea, I think is very contradictory, because on one end we are talking about Kasongo and Raila being denied by African leaders because of Kasongo embracing the Western world. One of the issues that really pissed off people a few days leading to the election, AU chairman, was when Kasongo tweeted saying he has talked to Macron. So we stop there. Now we go back to Francophone Africans and what they stand for. Remember, we are chasing these colonials back out of Africa, and if we can say that Raila was denied based on the fact that Kasongo is always seen embracing the Western world, and then here they themselves, the leaders, elected Djibouti, which according to Lala said, Djibouti is not even like a country. It's a country that all the Western world has, launched and set up their bases there. I think tunajicontradict sana, because tunasema Raila alikataliwa kwa sababu Kasongo pia naye ana embrace the Western world, which is bad, and I believe that's why Raila lost. So
Jemo, I think we are repeating ourselves for over.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying we are contradicting.
It is not only one factor.
And that's why I
From
say
the
we
word
are
go, we said
contradicting
there are many
Bernard.
factors that contributed
And
to
Bernard,
this
that's why I
loss.
say we are
So
contradicting.
one of it would be that, and the other one, that does not
Yeah,
deny that the other one is
and to
also
be
there.
honest, and the word contradiction means the same thing you're saying. So don't try to fix something that I am trying to say. You know, ukikuwa Dr. Obvious pia naye inakuwa. That's what we are doing here. And we are now making progress because I think also as a country, we are excusing our failures by saying these other leaders did not see at our, they were not looking at our weaknesses. I believe failure for what Kenya is and how Raila failed is entirely on Kasongo and Raila. The issue where someone like Museveni, as an opposition leader, can be abducted in Kenya, leave the Gen Zs alone. A whole opposition leader can be abducted in Kenya, and Raila says nothing, even if he say it wasn't us, the Raila that they knew that they would have voted for AU chairman. If we can overlook at our weaknesses and start pointing at why the Western world, let me tell you, the Western world is so busy with Trump right now. They care less about your AUC chairmanship. We have been talking about even Raila, not to go there because that thing is useless. That job is just a position that does, it's like a dog that can't bite. So the West, when it comes to this issue, I don't think they care about it. As a matter of fact, whoever gets elected, they can influence. So they don't care about who is sitting at that seat. So let us, as a country, let us stop pointing fingers and excusing our weaknesses. Because if our weaknesses can be seen by other African leaders, can you imagine what the West can do to Kenya? And that's why we are seeing Kasongo selling our country left, right, and center. What we are doing is excusing ourselves, excusing Baba, and sometimes we can even excuse Kasongo. We need to address at what can we fix as citizen. Nimependa hiyo video umecheza ya narudi nyumbani. That should be a message. It says Gen Zs. Gen Zs are happy Baba is coming back. But Baba better not disappoint Gen Zs because they are expecting something from this outcome. It can be a positive outcome. Sometimes it's also good to look at our disappointments and also turn those negative vibes into positive vibes. Baba can do that. Gen Zs are singing and they are trying to say without saying there, now it's time to come back home and leave Kasongo alone. We can work together. But we're yet to see, is Baba gonna take this invitation and the chance from the airport as an invitation to dig us deeper into Kasongoism, or are we gonna come back and say the same things that the African Union president ruled against us? Are we gonna keep those same things, or are we gonna change our direction? Are we gonna divert our attention into nation building, or is it another regime of kina Besige kuku abducted na kina Gen Z kuku abducted, the corruption going on? If we don't fix this, guarantee you, there is nowhere we're going. I think, Bernard, you're asking this question earlier. In the years to come, there is nowhere we should not even front even a deputy chairman kwa AU, because it's not even worthy for us to say we are staying and we never learn. We're staying with the same principles and take them forward and expect different results. I hope that the invitation from the Gen Zs to Raila and the celebration, if there is some tomorrow from the airport, let us not, any of us here on the platform, let us not interpret that as Gen Z just saying, Baba, you are good. They are saying, Baba, come back, we need to work. And Baba cannot work with Gen Z, with Kasongo on the other hand of Baba. And that's what's going to be. So we will forge our way forward. We learn from this issue that happened in the AU. Let's stop throwing excuses as to the Western world did what. Let us point those same fingers at ourselves, look ourselves in the mirror and say, how can we do better as a country? Those other Africans that voted us down, they're also embracing Western world like Djibouti. They were given those opportunities, if that's the case. So tutakuwa tukiji-contradict, and we're not going to be looking at ourselves in the mirror and say, maybe we have a problem. Actually, not maybe, we have a problem. And we need to fix our country first before we can say we are out there fixing another country, or the Africa for that matter. And that's my take for now.
Okay, let's have Mounga.
Okay, for me, as is obvious, I've seen God's hand from Addis yesterday. Guys, imagine what would have happened if that win occurred. They would have said that they have billions set aside for the celebrations. Already, the guys who've been taken there, those 187, I can bet you if you looked at the books, the billions that they claim to have used to have transported those people and kept them in Addis up until now would be crazy. Had that seat been won, I bet you there would be billions allocated to an office locally, and probably every other country in Africa would have been allocated billions from our coffers, from the Kenyan coffers, claiming that it is the office of the AU president in each and every African country. Then another thing, that clip that has been played, what I'll tell you is Ruto successfully, there's something that Ruto has done successfully, and I give him hands down, is finishing the popularity, the organic popularity of one man, Raila Odinga. That Ruto successfully did. If he promised anyone that he was going to finish the man, he's actually succeeded to deliver on that. I'll tell you that for the following reasons. I was in Siaya recently when Ruto was going to apparently open the stadium. Guys were being transported in buses. There were buses that were brought into Siaya County to come and witness Raila Odinga's event that involved Ruto. Recently, last week, there was another event, there was another conference apparently in Kisumu that Ruto ought to have attended. He sent Kindiki. Why? Because he knows no one wants anything to do with him. So similarly, people are talking about this airport thing. I hope that doesn't happen, because the truth is people will be transported in buses and our coffers will be raided once more, claiming that people are going to receive Raila and that they're going to bring the youth. Because trust me, there's no Gen Z who's available to do any such thing, and including even the Luo Gen Zs. There's none of them who's willing to go to any airport to bring anyone anywhere. That is the actual truth. Right now, if anyone means anything for Kenya, if there's anything left in Raila that is left in his heart for Kenya, he should quietly come into Kenya, do whatever he needs to do, and probably go take a 6 months sabbatical, trying to reevaluate himself. And as someone indicated earlier, doing biographies for the truth of what he can actually put down as the things that he has done, put timestamps on them, give us scenarios that we can pick for history. As for what Kenya remembers Raila for now, trust me, none of us can imagine when we sit and try to process anything he's ever done based on what we have witnessed him do with Ruto, especially now, at the time when Kenya really needed someone to stand with them and tell them that it is a good thing that a new wave has come over and Kenya finally is in hands of a future that can be trusted with its leadership. At the time when Kenya needed that failed, and especially in him, because there was one office he was seeking, an office that was going to be his individually and his children's and his wife, perhaps, but that one that was going to do very little for the rest of this country. We know of several of us who've been diplomats, like we have represented Kenya. you sit in a committee, in a global committee, where you are standing as an African, and more specifically when your plaque is read, when you're being given a certificate, it is written on Kenya. So your representation was one of Kenya and Africa. Nobody even knows. Nobody even cared. Why? Because you went and did what you needed to do in your capacity. And it is in the minutes of that meeting that you went and represented Africa, or you went and represented Kenya. Nobody cares. The same exact thing would have happened had Raila gone to Africa Union. But the number of billions that they'll claim they have allocated to both the campaigns and everything else that is revolving around that same seat, trust me, would have educated a very big chunk of Kenyans to very high levels for them to come back and be useful to this country. But that has gone down the drain, all in the name of trying to get Raila to occupy an office that would not have influenced anything in Kenya. But having said that, God came through for us. They will continue stealing, but at least they will not continue stealing in the name of a title that would not have made a difference. So where we are at, God's hands is over Kenya. And Kenya is not going to sink because God is with us. As for those of us who understand truly what it means to be country people, let us stand and be counted for a time such as this. Let us make a difference. Let us be the hummingbirds that Wangari Maathai spoke about. Let us make the little difference, the little way we can, for as long as it will be a difference we'll be making. If they don't have to appear like big strides, there will be small strides, but for as long as it comes deep from my heart and I'm convicted to the point that this, I am doing this, I'm seeing this paddle and jumping it because of tomorrow. And as I do that, let me not step on anybody's toes. Let me be so Kenyan about it, to the extent that I'm so deliberate that even where I'm stepping, it's not causing a dent and a hole that will affect the next Kenyan who's coming after me. That is all that we are left to do as Kenya. As for now, God has seen us through. He has taken us past the AU madness that we have had to experience for 1 year, that has caused us so much pain, so much suffering, and has raided our coffers. Let us know that what is left for us in the beyond, thank God, God gave us children. And these children have come and proven that they're nothing that like what was there yesterday. That Kenya has a better tomorrow because they exist. Thank you.
Okay, quickly. Yes, Mr. Njuguna. Unmute. Your mic is off.
Thank you. Sorry. I just want to abide myself by Maunga, what you have just said. That whatever happened in Addis Ababa is by God's grace. Whatever happened in Addis Ababa is by God's grace. Because we need Raila back in Kenya to take his position. And for now, he has a very good reason to take over his position, because the court has pronounced that Azimio was the majority leader, which means most likely they won the election. Thank you, Bernard.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to open a new debate.
Bernard, allow me to ask. Allow me to ask. What is that position that people are claiming that Raila should take? What position was that has been assigned? The truth is, it is a bit derogatory. The truth is, Njogona, that Raila was not born to fight for anybody. At 80 years, yes, he was being taunted as an old man. Let his oldness be something that he can retire with graciously. There are things that we want him to put down for us in journals, for our generations to be able to read. In as far as concerns the history of this nation, he's very good at articulating that. As for fighting, pia si tumeza, pia sisi tuko. Let us also speak in our capacity and say, what is it that we're doing for now? As for claiming that he's coming back to take positions, those positions, by the way, are the ones that are non-existent and that you're making. Right now, trust me, there is no way Raila is going to go into a position after amesikia wamtia government na vile Ruto anamwembrace. Hakuna mahali, musi expect Raila arudi hapa kupigania mtu yote. Ebu wa Kenya saizi muamke mjipiganie. Thanks.
Bernard.
let's do this. And you
Can I respond? Can I respond, please?
Quickly, please.
Yes. I don't think I said later coming back to take his position was derogatory. I'm saying he's coming back to read us. Whether he's going to read us for few months and take a back seat, that's fine. But he's the one who is experienced. Somebody need to take over from him, and that person can only be guided by him. That's what I meant.
No, please, I'm avoiding. Let's not open a new debate. We are beginning to close, please. Lala, what are you saying?
Bernard, how do you know a leader? A leader has followers. If you're a leader, you have to have followers. Baba has followers because he has contributed a lot for the democracy of Kenya, and many things he has done. And those are facts. So we can't second guess or retract or rewrite. So he has agree with Juguna, is coming to lead us. Does Baba make mistakes? Yes, he does make mistakes like anybody else. But I think let us be too critical, so much to the point where we don't see facts from fictions and other ways of looking at our own sense of history. Baba is a leader. Leaders can be 80, can be 15 years old, whichever age they can. We are not the one to decide when somebody should not offer themselves. But I think also we can make a decision, just like Maunga stated, in her mind, Baba perhaps should be plateauing at this moment. But for some of us, we see him as a Mandela, someone who has contributed, and we are here because of people like him. It's an embodiment of our fight and our struggle and what we have achieved. So we believe that he has the capacity, is still able to articulate, what the issues are very, very well. And so I disagree with Maunga on that particular point. So Bernard, a lot of noise here. So back to you, and then I'll close later on. Back to you.
Thank you, Lala.
Can I say something for a second, please, Bernard?
Yes, Mr.
Just for a
Juguna.
second.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to remind the panelists, we had this president of Indonesia. He had retired for so many years, but decided to come back at 8 years old just to make sure his country go back to where it was before. And thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this debate is becoming very interesting. Raila is coming from Addis. Raila is a man for himself. He will decide what he will do. We will have wishes, what we wish him to do, what we wish him not to do. But making him do or telling him what to do, I think we are overambitious on the same. Will Raila continue with Ruto? It is his choice. Will he abandon Ruto and go and do ODM alone? It is his choice. As at now, we need as Kenyans to do what will help this country. And we begin by taking responsibility for the same. Taking responsibility for the same means hii Kenya imefika mahali ambapo lazima tuirekebishe. Basi mimi naanza kurekebisha hivi, kwenda kwa kila shule nikiongelesha watu, kwenda kwa kila soko nikiongelesha wamama, kitu kama hiyo. Take upon yourself to do something positive that will bring the change. Expecting Raila to come as a savior, a messiah, win one silver bullet that is going to solve everything is still going to disappoint. It's still going to disappoint, and we will not get everything done just like that. But we must believe in that change and work towards that change. And whatever way we can do to make that change work, I think that's what we need to shoulder, other than us expecting that when Raila comes, he will do this. When he comes, he will do this. Do we need his wisdom? We do. Do we need his input? We do. But he has to offer it, and there will be how to get that. Like even this political arrangement, all these political arrangements has not helped us. So they can come back, arrange, change constitution, make Raila prime minister again, and then all that. It will just be for the sake of that political arrangement. But this country badly needs change, and we should be that change that this country needs. So let's appreciate whatever the people that have gone ahead of us have done, but not relinquish our own input in causing that change by our personal contribution. That's what I'm emphasizing. Raila will do his own because he has done his own, and he will continue doing until he retires. In fact, there are those who are wishing him away. Unfortunately, he can't be wished away. Those who love him completely. Those who hate him completely. But he has been here, and until he fizzles away, we'll still have him. So let's make room for him where necessary. But
Bernard, can I say something?
Yes.
Can I say something? All of us are talking about
yes.
All of us are talking of a leader, transformative leader, someone who can come and lead us. Everyone has been talking about that. Okay. The question is, as a nation, who is he or she that seem to have that capacity to do that? Raila has never been a CEO of the country. He has been a minister, he has been a opposition leader, a prime minister, but he's never been a president. But the way people talk as if he has been one, I think we can critique him if we have given him that kind of position as the CEO. Then therefore we can be able to actually, most of us who are talking is almost as if the failure of a nation is tied to him, okay? Which is, I think, is not right. He's never been one. So if he wants to be one, I think it is his right. Nobody should tell him he shouldn't be. If you don't vote for him, that's perfectly fine. But I think let us be very, very honest. Baba can still choose to run. And I think it's a formidable force because of his past, the kind of person he is. And that's why we thought he would do well as an African leader. But Ruto messed it up. His team did not know what they were doing. The ilikuwa inanuka, the stink was there already. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. How we want to be free, yet we don't want people to be free in their choices individually. Eli, unasemaje? Naomba tafadhali hii show inaonekana ndio inaanza.
Well, Bernard, watu wananichekesha na si ati kwa ubaya, lakini when I hear people talk about Raila to infinity, to a point where this man cannot breathe. I mean, this is just like some kind of abuse of the elderly, you know? This, to me personally, I think people should leave this man alone. Kina Kalonzo Musyoka are there. Let them proceed with their work. Any other persons who want to, show themselves up as credible to the people of Kenya, they should just take over. This permanent thing about Raila is so unfair to this man. It's not good, you know. And Juguna, I respect the way you presented, but why would you want this person to continue, and you don't want other people to succeed, from him, just to take over and do a similar thing which he has been doing, because this annoys people, especially from a certain part of the country, because every time this person tried to lead the country, at least in 2 occasions, he was rigged out. So why do people, the same people who rejected him, now want him to do what? You know, I
Okay.
think it's just
Eli, I
mad.
think you have made your point.
Lakini, anyway,
Naomba
Eli,
wacha niwache hiyo.
Njuguna,
Wacha niwache hiyo.
Order, you guys.
Put words in
Let's do
Njuguna's
this.
mouth.
Please,
Njuguna
let's do this. Let's
gave
do
his point of
Allah,
view.
you're out of order. Please, let's do this. We are wrapping up. Let's not open a new debate. Okay? Raila's age, I don't have a problem with it. I was telling, I think it was Frank or one of the guys here. Moses started the leading of Israel from Egypt at 80. Caleb asked for the mountain at 80. Life begins at 80. So let's not have the issue of age. If Raila wants to run, he will run. If he doesn't want to run, we can't make him run. But he will have an influence on what is going to happen. So let's not, be conclusive that it has to be this way or that way.
Can I make my point, Bernard?
Wanataka kufanya. So
please, please, one second.
I think Njuguna has been mentioned. Why can't you let him talk?
Yes.
Yes.
Njuguna, what is it? Now, what I was saying, when I say that Raila should come back and lead us, I meant Raila, let him be the kingmaker. Let him tell us who is that he has appointed who can take over from him. We have got the likes of Kalonzo. We have got the likes of Matiang'i. So let him lead us. That's what I meant. But I was not saying that he should come and lead the country.
Thank you, Njuguna. But what I was trying to say.
Order, guys. Eli, out of order. Thank you.
Njuguna, Bernard, real quick.
Jamo, what is it, please? We need to close.
So, Bernard, I highly disagree with Njuguna on that part. And this is just where we need to start talking. What really ails Kenya? Njuguna, if you give Baba that much power, and you already know he's working with Kasongo, what if tomorrow he says that Kasongo is the way? I mean, Mimi Nangojea.
Now, there's no point. Raila is working with Kasongo. Please,
people, the family that really loves him, his followers, can sit down and.
Baba has got his own principles, and Kasongo, Raila is not working with Kasongo.
Order, you guys, order. Now, Jemo, if he says Kasongo
over there at AU are this, and this is why you failed. And Baba, honestly, if you have a lot of strengths and you have opportunities, but if you continue on this trajectory, hata huko mbele utatupoteza hata sisi. We'll have to say no to your advice and leadership. We have to call our people out. But tukisema, and I agree, we are giving Baba too much.
Jemo, I think you are not even right in that statement. Nobody's giving Baba power.
If he can make his independent decision and let us understand that he has made it from
I think you're taking us to circles. Let's do this. There's nobody giving Baba power.
But from his own free will, where we tunasema nye hapa Baba ako right. But hatuwezi
I was making my final submission, then I was interrupted by three people. So
please, let's do this. You people are now conspiring to keep me here longer than necessary. I don't want that. So we either stay in order ama tumalize show kama African Voxel. Tafadhali. So Eli, unataka kupatia nusu dakika kwa sababu
yes,
there is Mama and there is engineer here who needs to make their final submission. Quickly, please.
Thank you, Bernard. And I just wanted to, to point out that when I visited the social media of the African Union, the Facebook and all the other handles and different platforms, surprisingly, majority of people were actually disappointed and I don't want to raise a new topic here, but they were mostly disappointed because they claim that the African Union might as well be called the Arab League or something like that. How can you have? So they were disappointed because wanaona ni kama language na religion ndio imeshikana kwa hii kitu. So me, I don't like those kind of tribal things, religious and all that fights. But this is my observation, what I saw. A lot of the people from different countries in Africa walikuwa nasema ati Raila was only defeated because of that content of Francophone and Islam. It's very unfortunate people are saying that, but that's how they're saying it. Majority of the commentators that I saw there. So that was quite interesting to observe. Thank you and enjoy, guys. I'm out.
Thank you very much. Mama, your closing remarks, alafu engineer ndo atapewa mwisho ndio pastor wa leo.
Bernard, tomorrow is Monday. I don't have any word to talk again. Let me wait for tomorrow. But for early, yes, that is what a lot of people were observing, because I never even myself knew that the people who spoke English, we are not even enough, and the French and the Muslim and that makes something. And again, Eli, how did this man Apache from Palestine was there to speak, to give encouragement his Muslim brothers not to get out of touch? Thank you, Bernard. I don't want to say more.
Okay, if I give response to that, it will take longer, but let's have engineer first. Engineer, are you there?
Hey, Pastor Bernard, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Long time. Karibu.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit, maybe almost about 6 months. Lakini Mungu ameniweka na ametuweka hapa. Iko baridi kidogo. Well, I just wanted to contribute a little bit on this issue with Baba, not making it in the African Union. And I have to agree with some of you that are saying that it's because of not necessarily his association with Ruto, but also there is also those dynamics that had to do with the French speaking and also the religion and things like that. And actually, you would have observed that as all those 6 rounds were continuing on, you could be able to see that. And also SADC, the South African countries coming in the last minute and saying that why are we not supporting the Madagascar candidate? Well, I want to get on. I think Ellie is the one that had mentioned about that issue about the Francophone and the religion and all that. But also there's another point that he made that I may have to disagree with a little bit, and I think Lara did mention. And I don't know why we always, as Pan-Africanists, we are always going back and blaming other people for things that we should do. I'm always a believer of a person for African solutions. Let us work with these other people. And then we get on the table with them. And we decide, we tell them, hey, you guys want to do this stuff and all that? You want these resources and all that? Why don't you come and start your industries here in Africa? And then for us that are in diaspora, I would love to come over there and, do my engineering work in Africa. We just have to fix this thing. Hii maneno ya kusema kila wakati tuseme kama we had given warnings about Ruto. We knew who he was before our people, those people, put him in there. And then we come and say, oh, the Western countries helped him to get there. But also even ourselves, we did contribute towards that. we have to get to the point of where we want, we tell, we are working with other people, but also we are managing our own issues properly. Democracy, iende vile inaenda. I've had some things mentioned negative about Kibaki, and I'm sorry about that. But that's a type of leader, even though there were some flaws, we could have used his, we could have continued on with the way he had seen things, and we could have been able to move forward as Africa. The same thing with Gaddafi. Gaddafi also had that vision. I know there's a long time that he had problems with the West because of what had happened in Lockerbie. If you guys can remember that Pan-American airline that went down in Lockerbie, Scotland, and that beef, he had that beef with the Western countries because of that, and his sponsorship of, and we know what that was all about. But later on, if proper history was to be followed, there was a time actually before even he died. He was actually now working with the Western countries and also China and all that as he was moving on his vision. Yes, he died in the hands of probably the NATO did not help him. They actually allowed that to happen because of that beef that there was back in the when that accident happened or that activity happened. Lakini ningetaka sisi, the Pan-Africanness that we are, let us really be responsible for our own moving forward. And that's why I was actually supporting Raila. I wish he was able to get that post. And actually right now, I don't feel good, especially when it comes to removing Ruto, whether this is really going to help. It may not. I'm in fear that maybe Raila might probably want to, front himself or maybe front another candidate. And then it's going to divide everything. And alafu, Ruto aenda kama vile moja alikuwa anafanya. So, lakini, we just have to settle down. Let's get Raila back. Let's remind him, he is a man that has achieved a lot when it comes to democracy in Kenya. So we just have to be easy with him, work with him. And then we have one candidate against Ruto. And actually the Gen Zs, I would want a Gen Z actually to go against him. We'll bring this guy down. What was Senegal let watu chini? That president from Senegal, he was able to, and the odds was so big. So kwa hivyo, my final word here is that let us all work together.
Yes, and he won the elections while he was in prison.
Yes, so we can be able to do it. Let's do it, guys. And anybody, hata kama, Raila did, I'm a little bit angry with him about some things, especially at Danny deal. I wasn't happy about that. And the broad-based government and all that kind of stuff, hata Uhuru, Uhuru people also did it, which there's some questions to be asked about that. But anyway, we can forget about that. We know who Raila is, and I know that we can be able to use him as we try to remove Ruto. They are not friends. That one I know. They are not. And actually, Ruto had put him there so that he can have a straight path back in 2027. Right now, it's not going to work. So he is also afraid. I was actually happy with the people in Kondele when they said Ruto must go after Raila was defeated in that AUC. So there are some good things to be picked up from the whole thing, but we have to handle it with care, and then we'll be able to get there. Asante sana Bena. Na watu wengine kwa
Okay, thank you, Engineer Karuki. We appreciate that. And On the issue of fielding one candidate is the surest way of getting Ruto a ticket. The rigging of Kenyan election is usually with those preset number of candidates. He cannot win like Moi because the new constitution now demands 50+1. That's our safety. If we will get rid of Ruto through ballot, let every political party field a presidential candidate so that we force a runoff. Then with the runoff, we call it a day. But if we let that there is two strong candidates, itakuwa tu hiyo tena at Ruto has won with 200,000 votes, with 100,000 votes. And it was that way 2007. it was that way 2022, and it's going to be the same game. So if we really want to get Ruto out of office democratically, let's allow democracy to work, not for us to preset it, that we fix this, put this together in order to have this predetermined outcome. Let the people decide, the way Matiba used to say. Yes, Njuguna.
Now, if there is any president that can easily be kicked out with ease, is the current president. I can tell you for sure. It's very easy to kick him out. Very easy. Because, Bernard, you have been there during Jomo Kenyatta's time. You've been there during Kibaki Moi's time. You've been there during Kibaki's time. You've been there during Uhuru's time. You are here now. Never has any president been so disrespected by Kenyans like the current president today. So that tells you people and Kenyans in general are ready to kick this man out. Thank you.
Exactly. That one, there's no doubt on that. The only remaining thing is how. The ballot in Kenya, from all I remember, it only worked once, 2002. This other thing have korokochos, mix and match, piki pongi. If we don't deal with that piki pongi, and the master of piki pongi is the one in charge of the country.
This is the moment.
Let's not set ourselves up for another disappointment.
Now, this is the 2002 moment we are in right now. I can tell you for sure. I have got no doubt, and my heart is at peace.
Okay, sawa. Asante sana Bwana Njuguna, asante Engineer Kariuki, asante Maunga, asante Eli, Reverend Lala. Thank you so much. I want just to remind us, we are paying our bills. Please, let's contribute our contribution. And don't forget Frank. We must take care of him. And with that video of Frank, tunafunga stesheni hadi wakati tutakapokutana tena. God bless you.
Welcome to Sound Candid Talk News Special Edition. Be sure to subscribe, share the video widely, and give it a thumbs up. God bless you. This is the story of Frank Okoth, a 19-year-old Kenyan whose life is nothing short of a miracle and an inspiration. A young man who, against all odds, survived 6 gunshots during the tragic June 26, 2024, Gen Z protests in Nairobi. Frank is an orphan, raised by his aging maternal grandmother after losing his mother at the tender age of 8. He never knew his father, a result of a teenage pregnancy, and life has dealt him blow after blow. Frank and his grandmother have faced unspeakable challenges, including surviving 2 devastating slum fires that claimed everything they owned, his late mother's documents, birth certificates, and school papers, leaving them with nothing to rebuild their lives.
Na sina hata shilingi moja. Niko na kitabu saa hii na nimeshaanga shilingi 100 ngapi. Kitabu iko hapa natembea naye.
Forced to drop out of school in Form 2 due to a lack of fees, Frank started doing manual jobs to provide for his grandmother. But on June 26, 2024, everything changed. During the protests, Frank joined other Kenyan youth to exercise their democratic rights, peacefully demonstrating against unemployment, rising living costs, and rampant corruption. But the unthinkable happened. Police opened fire on unarmed demonstrators, killing over 20, injuring many, and leaving others unaccounted for. Frank was among the victims, hit by 6 bullets, yet by God's grace, he survived. After a series of life-saving surgeries, Frank can now walk again, but the bullets left a lasting impact. He can no longer perform heavy-duty jobs to support his grandmother. And their iron sheet home, deep in the slum, is inaccessible by vehicles. In case of a medical emergency, help is far out of reach. To make matters worse, the slum is plagued by insecurity, with daily cases of muggings and robberies. Despite all these challenges, Frank dreams of finishing his education, learning a trade, and building a better life for his grandmother, the woman who has stood by him through every storm. This is where we need your help. In the short term, we aim to move Frank and his grandmother to a safer home where they can access medical care and live without constant fear. Long term, we want to support Frank in completing his education, learning a profitable skill, and starting a small business. I've faced so much, but I'm still standing. I want to work hard, take care of my grandmother, and make her proud. I just need a chance. You can be the change in Frank's life. Every contribution, big or small, will go a long way in helping this brave young man and his grandmother rebuild their lives. Let's come together and help Frank fulfill his God-given destiny. God bless you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video widely, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories on Sound Candid Talk. Send your donations to Sound Candid Talk, support Frank Okoth account. The link is in the description below. Together, we can make a difference.
I'm in Kirugoya, Standard 6, and suddenly there is oathing.
There's?
Oathing, the 69 oath, 1969 oath.
Explain.
Where all people of Mount Kenya, excuse me, are trooping to Gatundu, to Jomo Kenyatta's home, to take oath. And where even school-going children are being asked to take oath. So I come home for holidays, and I'm told that even my younger brothers walked to go and take oath. The oath was being given at Kabare, so people were walking the 8 kilometers. A whole school, the people of age would walk.
And what was the oath?
The oath, as I heard it then, was to say for those of us from the mountainside that the presidency will not go beyond Mount Kenya. It will not go especially to the Luo nation.
Oh my God, this is literally-
Wamera, you know?